So guys, we'll continue the topic, yesterday's topic, the joint concept that we started. And yesterday, guys, I have seen in your chat group, I guess you got the document that I'm using for your session. It's there in your learning portal. Somebody posted that. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So for summarization purpose, you can use this document, but in case if you're looking for detailed explanation, then I would recommend you to go through your PPTs that you have. Guys, PPTs are more in detail as compared to this summarized guide that I'm using. This is generally for trainers, okay, and the detailed guide is for students. All right, let me open the document. People who were new, I mean, in yesterday's session, for whom it was first session yesterday, guys, have you people downloaded and installed the software? Is it working on your systems? Are those people connected?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. And this guide that you located in your learning portal that you posted in your group, if you see the first 15, 17 pages, I mean, there basically they have explained you every step of the installation. So if you are still facing any problem with the installation part, you please refer this guide. I'll show you. So this is the one. If you see the initial pages, I mean, they have explained you how to configure this in mainframe environment. I mean, in case if you are using ZOS or mainframe operating system, and then they have explained you how to install the same in Windows operating system. So every step, I mean, they have taken the screenshot of every step and they have pasted it in that guide. So all those people who are new, I mean, who are still facing problem with the installation, guys, if you see this, I mean, in case if you located this document in your learning portal, if you see the initial pages of this document, there they have explained you the entire installation process, how to download this, I mean, which is the URL that you need to go and download the software, and then how to install it in Mac OS operating system and then Windows operating system. So there are total 33 pages. In first around 17 to 18 pages, they have explained you only the installation part. And then you have two demonstrations where they have explained you how to import CSV files, with column headers and without column headers to MySQL environment. That is what we did in our first session. So guys, let's resume yesterday's topic. Yesterday we started with join concept. Okay, who will tell me what is the concept of join? If you are asked this question in interviews, guys, this question is common everywhere. You'll be asked this question in R also, Python also, Tableau also, Power BI also, and MySQL also. This is a common concept that you have everywhere. Only the terminologies are different. Like in Python, we call this as merge. In SAS, in case in future, if you get an opportunity to learn this, analytical application called as SAS, in SAS also it is called as merge. Python also it is called as merge. R also it is called as merge. In some applications, I mean, they use different terminologies. In most of the other applications, they call this as join. So it's one and the same thing. You call it merge or call it join. It's the same concept, that you have everywhere. So if you are asked this question in interview, guys, how you can best explain this topic? What is the concept of join? Who will answer?
Joins are basically used to join two or more tables based on a common column.
Okay, so join is basically a concept to join two or more tables based on a common column. Okay, that's the definition or description of this concept. Why there is a need of join? How will you explain this? Why is this important? Why is this needed? Why is this required? What is the practical importance of this? Yes, anyone? Guys, how will you explain this? See, if you justify your answer with a real life practical example, guys, I feel that's the best answer. So if I'm your interviewer and if you answer only this much, then I will think, I will expect a better answer. So if a candidate, also not only describes this, but also justifies this or tells me, what is the practical importance of this, then I would rather prefer that candidate.
If I have an order table and a products table,
Mhm.
so if I want to view the products that are mentioned in order table, I have to go to table differently. So the best thing to do is to merge the order table and product table based on the product ID, so that I can view which order is for which product, uh, and summarize it basically. That
Okay.
would be an easy way to
All
view.
right. All right. And can someone else add more to this? Others, I want somebody else also to speak out on this. Guys, you all attended yesterday's session. You all should be in a position to answer this. Yes? Someone
Yes,
else?
hi.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, I'll give a live example. As we can see, Amazon, due to safety measures, they are not mentioning what is the product on the package.
Hmm.
So when you take two tables, order table and containing Begum's product one, when we receive the package, there will be only order ID on the label. So if they want to cross check it, they will check the same order ID with the product details, so that they can verify that whether I have got the original package or not using the order ID from both the tables.
Okay, okay, great. Very good example. Others? Guys, where you think joining will help you? Yes?
Basically, if we take an example of a school, and where we need to, get to know the children's ID number and the courses they're enrolled into.
Okay.
In case if both of them are in different tables, then we can use this join concept.
Very good. So guys, all these answers were correct, and you need to combine all of these, your individual answers that you gave, and then create one best, definition and, justification of this particular concept. So joins, guys, as the name suggests, is a mechanism by which you combine two or more tables based on a common column, what you said. Now, why is this important? So, guys, in databases, we have a concept. You haven't seen that. We have a concept called as normalization. Whenever you create a database, guys, one cannot just go blindly and create a database. Creating a database is not so easy. The way we followed certain steps, we said create database, database name, create table, table name. Guys, it is not that easy. Practically, when you implement a database in a production environment, if you are using a database as a backend tool in an application development environment, then there is a thorough, thought process applied, when you are designing a database. So when you design a database and when you create the objects of the database, the major object of any database is a table. Apart from table, you can have views and we have something called as functions, procedures, triggers. Guys, those are not part of our discussion, but a database is collection. It can be collection of many objects. The most important object of a database is a table. So many times people say a database is collection of tables. Now, when you're designing these tables, guys, if I give you some raw information, let's say I have given you hundreds of attributes, hundreds of column names, and I asked you that, guys, you please segregate, all those columns. Create specific tables, and based on your understanding, okay, based on your conclusion, you redirect this, columns or this attributes that I shared with you in individual tables. Meaning I have given you some raw information, some 100, 200 columns, and I said that you create possible tables, based on these columns. So I have given you some customer information, I have given you some supplier information, I have given you some product information, some employee information, some payroll information, and I said you design appropriate tables and take the suitable columns from this raw list that I have given, and write it in those tables, or make these columns as part of those tables. Guys, we have a process. There is a scientific process. When people do this, it is called as normalization. Normalization is a process where you identify that if I'm creating an employee table, what is relevant for employee. In employee table, you should not write student columns or customer columns or product columns. Employee table should contain only employee related information. Student table should contain only student related information. Okay, if there is a product table, it should have only product related information. Supplier should have only supplier related information. So in case if you are looking for an accurate, for an efficient database, then it is required that you identify which is the suitable column for the table, and then write it into that table. We call this as normalization process. There are several steps in normalization. We call it as first normal form, second normal form, third normal form. Guys, this is something beyond your syllabus that I'm talking about. Okay, do not worry. Nobody will ask you on this. Questions on this. Questions will be based on the syllabus that you're covering. But just for your knowledge sake, I thought let me just go a little beyond syllabus and explain you. So in normalization, we have several steps like first normal form, second normal form, third normal form. Like this, we have around 7 normal forms. Those are basically individual rules. So in first normal form, first normal form says something, okay, and you have to follow those guidelines and design your table. You will not necessarily that after first normal form or after applying the first rule, you will get the best table. So you'll have to go for the second normal form. Not necessary that after second rule or second normal form also, you'll get your best table. So maybe you'll have to go for the third normal form. Now it is almost 99% guaranteed that after third normal form or after applying the third rule, you'll get your best possible table. But still, if you are not getting your best table, then you can think of the other normal forms. There are total 7 first to 7 normal forms that we have, but generally we stop after third normal form because we end up creating the best tables after third normal form, and after that it is not needed. So in a database, you'll have several tables where you have written specific information. But guys, maybe in production environment, some business users or some customers or some end users have requested that, hey, you please create this report. Okay, and in this report, I want this columns. Guys, not necessary that all those columns which your end users require are present in the same table. Not necessary. Okay, maybe some information is there in the customer table, some information there is there in the product table, some information is there in the supplier table. Now what do I do? Okay, since my end users need columns which are available in multiple tables, okay, then I can't write one single query unless and until it is a join query. I can't write a normal plain query which will fetch me data from all 3 tables. Here comes the role of join queries. See, if I'm not using joins and if I write queries against those individual tables, then I'm going to get independent reports. I do not want an independent report. I want a combined report. Combined report in the sense that report should have some columns from suppliers, some from products, some from customers, whatever user requires. So that is what I'm looking for. One single isolated, one single consolidated report, where which has columns coming from various tables. This is possible with the help of this join concept that we have. And as we discussed yesterday also, for join we have a criteria. Okay, 2 or more tables that you are joining, they should have some common column. Only then this relationship or this joining would be possible. Okay, not otherwise. If there is nothing column, if both the tables are absolutely different, there is nothing common between them, then joining a concept does not make any sense. And generally in those cases, we avoid joining those tables. So that's the story. That's the overall idea of this join concept. Guys, you can make this explanation a little compact, okay, little brief, and then explain that. So what I'm trying to tell you is, as I told you in your previous sessions also, guys, nowadays people want you to be practically competent. Conceptually, if you are strong, that's not going to help you. Okay, so the concept well, that's very good, but you should be able to relate that concept with real life scenario, with practical some practical examples. So try to justify every answer that you're giving in your interview, be it mock interview or the final interviews that you attend, okay, with a proper example. On most of the concepts, believe me, you'll be able to give a proper real life example that people experience in their day-to-day life. Okay, so it's not a subject, where, I mean, you can only visualize the things. You can't, see them practically happening. Okay, so try to relate every concept with a practical example, and that's the best answer, I feel. Okay, and you have, I mean, you'll have better chances of getting hired, I mean, in your interviews. So yesterday we completed this first type of join, this inner join. Guys, we will see this left and right join. So I opened this yesterday's query file, and this was the last join query that we had written. I'm continuing this. I'll just copy this in a new ditto. Save file, new query tab. So this is the query we had written for the inner join. Let me use the database. I say use PGA2, PGA2 or PGA02. So guys, if you remember, yesterday we created two tables, the student table and the marks table. And this is what we had in those tables. I say select star from student. This is the data we had in the first table, the student table. So there were some 4 rows with roll number 1, 2, 3, 5. And this is what we had in the marks table. So I say select star from marks, and in this table we again had some 4 rows, but one row was unique here. There we had roll number 1, 2, 3, 5. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we had written this join query, select student dot roll number comma f name comma score from student inner join marks on student dot roll number is equal to marks dot roll number, we got this output. As I said yesterday, inner join, if you are describing inner join, say inner join is a type of join which fetches the common data, similar data present in 2 or more tables that you are joining. Guys, this inner join query that you see is available in 2 forms. I can write this query in 2 different ways. As somebody said yesterday, I was about to tell you this in today's session. I can rewrite this query, but I generally do not recommend that first way, because the other types of joins that you have cannot be implemented using that way. So you should follow some standard way which is applicable to all types of joins. You should not go with some option which is applicable only to one particular type of join. But otherwise, if you're looking for an alternate option of this inner join, this is what you can do. Select student dot roll number f name score from student. Don't write this keyword inner join, just say comma. You can say first table comma second table, and then instead of on you write where. Guys, in case if you want to rewrite this query in a different way, this is what you can do. This is an inner join query. It is not mentioned in the query, but it is implicitly inner join. So when I say select student dot roll number f name score from student comma marks, here what I have said student inner join marks. So here I'm saying student comma marks, where student dot roll number is equal to marks dot roll number. This is also going to give me the same output. Exactly same output. But I prefer the second way, because using this approach, I mean, you can also implement the other types of joins that we have. That first approach is only for inner join. So in case if you want to implement left join, which is the second type of join, this is how it goes. Let me just comment it so that you will know what type of join is this. Both of these are inner join. And now I'm implementing left join. So I comment this as left join. Guys, what would be the changes? Before that, understand what this left join will return. Guys, left join So here this terminology left that you have written, that refers to the first table that you have written in your query, the left table that you have written in the query. So in my query, my first table that I have written is student. Guys, there is no rule as such that only this can be the left table. Any table that you write first is considered as left table, and this is considered as the right table. So in case if you are looking for all the rows that you have, all the information that you have in the left table, in the first table. For example, I want all roll numbers present in my student table, that is 1, 2, 3, and 5, but only the matching data coming from the second table. I repeat, left join is a type of join which fetches everything from the left table and only matching data from the right table. And right join is exactly opposite of it. Right join fetches only the matching data from the left table, that is your first table, and all the data from the right table. So in case if you want everything from the left table but only matching data of the right table, you must go for left join. And this is the only change required in case if you want to convert that inner join query into a left join query. So if just one change I made here. Okay, I just changed that keyword inner to left. And now if I execute, the output would be different. I mean, this output query is going to give you a different output. So as you see, it's fetching 1, 2, 3, 5. All 4 students, their names, and scores of 3 students. This score is coming null because for this student, there is no score, available in the marks table. That is the reason why it is writing null. This is your left join query. Similarly, if you want to implement right join query, this is how the right join query looks like. I comment this and say this is right join. So 2 changes are required in case if you want to convert that left join query into a right join. One change would be here you'll write right join instead of left join. Another change would be this roll number that you are fetching. Since now you want everything from the right table, the second table, you must write here the name of the right table or the second table, that is marks. What I want, roll number 1, 2, 3, 4. So all these roll numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 are present in the second table, right table. So I must fetch this roll number from the right table. So I must say here, select marks dot roll number comma first name score from student, right join marks. So 2 changes, right join and the name of the right table. And this is going to fetch you roll number 1, 2, 3, 4. And for roll number 4, the roll number 4 is unique in the second table. So for that particular roll number, you will not get first name and roll number because that is not available in your student table. That student data is not available in this table. So it will show you null for roll number and first name. And it will show you only the score of that student. Where the roll number, it will show you the roll number 4. The first name will be shown as null and the score will be shown, whatever is the score of that roll number 4. Like here, how you see score coming as null. In right join query, the first name will be shown as null because the student is not present here. Okay, this is how the output will look like. Roll number 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the names. No detail, no name present for the student in the student table. Only a score is there in the marks table and the roll number. So this is how it is coming. This is the concept of right join. Guys, is this clear, all of you? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yes, everyone. There's 3 types of joins. Guys, as I said yesterday also, we have many other types also, but not all of them are part of our discussion here. As I said, we have something called as equi-join, we have cross-join, we have natural join, okay, we have self-join. There are different types of join queries available, but these are the 3 that you'll find everywhere. Even in if you go to R and Python or Tableau, you'll see these 3 major types of join supported. And from analytics perspective, guys, I should know these 3 types of joins. But if I'm learning this from database perspective, in that case I should be familiar with everything. Okay, so here our perspective is analytics, not database. Okay, your profile won't be of a database developer at the end of the course. Okay, it will be an analytics profile like data scientist or data manager and all. So for you this is enough. I mean, these 3 categories of joins they have covered is what you're expected to know. Okay, because same you're going to implement in analytical applications R and Python also. So guys, here we completed this concept of joins. Now we will move on to the next topic. Okay, before that, any question on this, anyone? Is this clear? All three types of joins? What is
Yes,
inner
sir.
join? So if you're asked this question, what is inner join, or what is, guys, people will not ask you a question on cross join or natural join or self join or equi join, because they know, I mean, those questions will be asked to a candidate only if they go for database profiles, only if you apply for database profiles. If you apply for analytics profile, people will expect you to know only these three types. So do you think you'll be able to differentiate inner join, left join, and right join, all of you? Shall we
Yes.
move ahead?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Guys, the next concept that we have is very, very interesting concept. Okay, the concept of views. Does anyone know what are views? What is the concept of views? Views are also called as virtual tables. We have this concept of views. Views are also called as, let me write it separately. Views are also called as virtual tables. Guys, please answer. Do you know what is this concept? People who have some knowledge of, this is a concept present in all the databases. So if you have,
Yes, we use multiple tables, multiple columns from multiple tables and view it as a new table.
so this join query that you have written, guys, my view can generate, an output similar to this join query. That is what you meant to say. What other than this?
Views are basically created so that we can reuse the queries. We do not have to write the entire query and execute it. Rather than we will create a view for the particular query and reuse it. It is basically a virtual table so that the concerned person has no access to the main table, and only the people who are granted permission can access the views, and the main admin can access the table.
Very good. So let me summarize the two, the two explanations that you people have given. So one of you said that, a view can be used to view data coming from multiple tables, meaning a view can generate uh, a join like output. And the query that you'll write for view will be much more easier, much more simpler as compared to the join query. Okay, number one. Number two, what you answered just now, if I summarize that, can I say, views provide some kind of security to my main table, my base table that I have, because I can provide access to only those information to my end users which I feel are, in case if those end users access that information, they can't create any harm to my main data. Okay, and I can hide all my sensitive data or confidential data that I have. So can I say views uh, provide some kind of security to your base table or your base data that you have?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So guys, let me go in detail of this topic. This is really interesting topic. I would like to explain you this with the help of an example. So these, apart from these two advantages that you mentioned, there are other advantages also of views. So guys, views are also called as virtual tables. Call it as virtual table or imaginary table, meaning these are not real tables. These are imaginary tables. Okay, we call views as virtual or imaginary tables, and these base tables are your real tables. These are your real tables. Now when you write a query, when you say create table, this is the query to create a real table. When we write this query create table is a query used to create a base table or a real table. And what is the query to create a view? We say create view. Instead of table, you will say create view. Now, guys, let me give you one very good example, and I think, this will help you a lot. Even if you're asked this question in interviews to justify this, how views are helpful. Okay, let's say there is a business organization which has, let's say, around 8 to 10 departments. So there is a company which has 8 to 10 departments. So there is a sales department, there's a marketing department, accounts, finance, HR. Like this, you have around 8 to 10 different departments. And guys, I don't know, if you people are experienced, if you have not worked anywhere, then I doubt you must be knowing this. But in case if you have worked in any company, you must be knowing that in every company, every organization, okay, they maintain all their data on their servers. Everything is stored on their servers. If there are 100 employees in the company, all those 100 employees will not have individual databases installed on their systems. Okay, the systems that they're using. Instead, how it would be, I mean, how is the scenario managed? I mean, all of their data will be located on the server. I mean, they are going to store all their data on the server, and all the users, 100, 500, 1000, 10,000 users are there. They will be provided access to the data. Okay, so I mean, in this case, they're working in a client server environment. All companies' important data is stored on company server, and people, the employees who are there in the company, okay, all the valid employees, authenticated employees of the company, based on their roles, privileges, they are given access to that server data. Okay, so there will be a centralized version, of the data. There won't be a distributed version or individual version of the data. Guys, let's say there is a master table stored on my server, which has information of all 10 departments. And the size of that database where all this, the size of that table or the size of the database where all this 10 departments information is stored is, let's say, 1 TB. It's really huge. There are, millions of, I mean, rows and columns stored in the table. It's really huge. Okay, because it has information of all 10 departments. Let's say one fine day, the sales manager comes to you and says that, I mean, request you that, hey, give me my department's data, give me all my sales data. Okay, I want to run some survey, conduct some survey or run some analysis on the data. Okay, that's my urgent requirement. Okay, since the size of the master table is really huge and it has lots of unnecessary data, I do not need marketing data or HR data or customer data and all that. I just need data which is relevant to my department. Please give me my sales data. So let's say the main database or the main table that you have, the master table that you have, has 1 million observations. Okay, 10 lakh observations. Out of those 10 lakh, let's say around let's say 70 to 80,000 rows are for this department sales. So this guy, the sales manager, is expecting you to filter out, I mean, fetch all his sales data from the main table, the master table which is there on the server, and provide to him. Okay, so guys, you have written a query like this. Do not write this. We do not have those tables, so it will not work. Just understand the structure of the query. So this is what I feel I need to do in case if I have to provide that sales manager the data of his department. So I'm going to write some query like this. Select star from, I say master. Suppose master is my main table which is there on the server, which has 1 million, I mean 10 lakh observations. Out of those 10 lakh, let's say 80,000 observations are from, I mean, for this department sales. So guys, tell me if you agree with me or not. I mean, this is the query I'm going to write. Select star from master where department is equal to sales. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to write. You can write it in single or double quote. It's one and the same thing. I will say select star from master where department is equal to sales. What this query is going to do? Can someone tell me? Yes. Guys, are you all there? This is a very simple query. What this query will do?
It will all get the data from sales department.
So from master table,
from sales department.
yes, from master table which has 10 lakh rows, out of which 80,000 rows are for sales department. This query is going to fetch those 80,000 rows and it will generate an output. Guys, I don't want an output to be generated because how will I share this output with my sales manager? He doesn't want the output, he wants the actual data. So what I will do, guys, now you understand there is so we have learned 2 ways to create a table so far. Guys, the tables that we have designed so far, if you remember our initial demos where we imported CSV file and converted it into SQL table, that was one mechanism. Second mechanism was we said create table name. So if I just go back to my yesterday's query file, if you remember here we created a table. We said create table marks and we specified what columns we want in the table and then we inserted data into that. Guys, there is a third way also to create a table. We have already learned 2 ways by importing it and by writing create table query and insert query. There is a third way also to create a table. And what is that third way? You can also say something like this: create table sales as, and then you write the select query. Now you know what will happen when I execute this query? Anyone, any guess?
It will simultaneously create a table and then select the fetch the data from sales department.
Okay. Okay. Others, what others say on this? What this query will do, instead of writing a plain select, which is going to generate an output, which is of no use for me, because I have to share, the data, to with that sales manager.
It will select all the records of the sales department and create a table based on that.
You all agree with her? Guys, you all agree with this answer?
Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
out of 10 lakh rows, it is going to fetch those 80,000 rows. Earlier, it was writing that in an out, it was writing it to your output window. But now what it will do, this entire output which is generated by the select query will be written to a physical table. It will be written to sales table. And a new table will get created. You can call this as a subset table of master, which will have only sales data. And now your work is done. You just cut this table from the database and give it to that sales manager. After some time, guys, you got a similar request from the marketing manager. So he also needs, the data of his department, because he's also looking for a similar analysis. So again, you have to do the same for marketing. You have to say something like this. You have to say create table marketing as select star from master, where department is equal to marketing. Okay, so this here you created a marketing table. Let's say there were 1,10,000 rows which were of marketing department. Very similarly, you got a request from finance department, from accounts department, from HR department. Every department requested you to provide, data of their department. I mean, every manager requested you to provide data of their department, and you ended up creating 10 subset tables like this, because there were 10 departments data stored in the master table. You created 10 subsets of the master, and you have given it to those individual department managers. Guys, what is the disadvantage? I mean, if I follow this approach and try to meet their requirements, I mean, try to provide the solution for the requirement. Do you see any problem with this approach that I'm following here?
It
Yeah,
will occupy a large size. As we keep creating the table, it will occupy the large size for the database, whereas views are not that of size.
Absolutely. Guys, there are two major problems if I follow this approach. Number one, what you said, since the size of my master table was 1 terabyte, and if I create 10 subsets of that master, even the combined size of those subsets also will be 1 terabyte. Just imagine, I mean, my original data was only 1 terabyte, but since I have duplicated it, okay, again, I have to arrange, a space of 1 terabyte to, manage that duplicate data. Okay, so you wasted lots of space, number one. Number two, guys, whenever any new transaction will occur, okay, any kind of transaction, whenever a new record gets added, or whenever the existing records gets modified, or when something gets deleted, all of those transactions are going to occur in this master table only, because this is your main table. This is there on your server. Okay, this is there on your company server, company's main database, centralized database. Any transaction that is going to occur, guys, it is not necessary, that once this master table is created, it is always going to remain the same. It will never, change. It's always going to remain, similar. Possible that, after some time, some data got deleted, it got modified, some new data got inserted. Do you think all those transactions which are getting captured here in the master, which are getting recorded in the master, will also reflect in your subset tables that you have created, like sales or marketing or HR or accounts and all?
no, it will not be reflected.
Obviously not. Guys, this subset tables that you have created, sales, marketing, HR, accounts, finance and all, those are independent tables. They are no way related to this master table. So if I go and modify something in my master, nothing will change in sales. Sales data will remain as it is. Marketing data will remain as it is. So guys, then it's a problem for you. Let's say very frequently my master data is changing. So every now and then the subsets that you have created for your department managers will become obsolete, will become outdated. Guys, obviously, I want the same data, the data which is there in my master table, same data I'm expecting to be there in my subset tables also. But for doing that synchronization, just to ensure that this data and this data is always synchronized, you have to always, keep deleting the subset tables. Okay, let's say if something got changed here in master, you have to go and tell those managers, department managers, that guys, please discard the subsets that I provided you yesterday. Since the master data has changed, let me provide you the new subsets, because your subsets have become obsolete. They have become, outdated. Guys, how long you'll keep doing this? It's a pain. Okay, it's a cumbersome task that you're, performing every day. Okay, it's not a smart way of, managing the situation. What is the smart way, to manage the situation? Guys, instead of creating a table, a physical table like this, if you create a view, instead of creating a physical table like this, instead of saying create table, I just copied and pasted that query. Instead of saying create table, you say create view. Guys, the moment you say create view, let me document it. This is creating physical subset tables. And this is creating views. Instead of creating those physical subset tables, guys, if I create views, so I created a sales view, I created a marketing view. I'll just copy paste this query and change only this, replace this table by view. Guys, both those disadvantages that you had in the previous mechanism will get rectified the moment you convert your physical table into a view, the moment you convert your subset table into a view. Understand one thing, guys, views are virtual tables or imaginary tables. So they do not occupy much space, almost no space. I mean, they occupy almost no space on your system. Okay, as compared to the base table, they occupy almost no space on your physical drive. So your space problem is solved, because these tables are not real tables. These are not physical tables. These are imaginary tables or virtual tables. Unlike your base tables, like this marketing that I have created by saying create table marketing and create table sales, these are your actual tables, physical tables, okay, base tables. But instead of that, if I say create view, view name, create view sales, create view marketing, guys, you're not creating physical tables, you're creating views. And what is stored in the view, unlike your normal tables, which contains the actual data. So in this marketing table, there is some actual data stored. 1,10,000 rows of marketing department are stored in this marketing subset. But what is stored here in this sales and marketing, in this marketing view that you are creating, it is not going to store 1,10,000 rows of marketing department. Instead, what it is going to store, this particular query. Guys, what is stored inside the view? Not the actual data, but the query. The query that you have written for the view, the query gets stored in the view. Guys, just imagine, I mean, how much space you require to store this one line query. Hardly few kilobytes, I feel. Okay, as compared to those terabytes, this is hardly few, bytes or kilobytes, of size that you need on your disk to store this query. So what is stored in this view? No data, but the query. Now, guys, when someone says, like, someone writes a query like this, for example, let's say I have given this view to my marketing manager, or I have given this view to my sales manager. So the way you fetch data from a base table, similar way you're going to fetch a data from a view. In fact, when you see a query, it is very difficult to conclude whether in this query, I mean, am I fetching the data from the view or the base table? Because the query that we write for select query that we write for a view and the select query that we write for a base table is 100% similar. So if I say select star from cells, guys, here I'm assuming, that cells is my, I mean, there is no such physical table. Instead, I have created a view and I have named it as cells, or I have named it as marketing. So the moment I say select star from cells, guys, as I said, there is no data in cells. So when I say select star from cells, from where my user will get data, or from where my account manager, I mean, the department manager will get the data. Guys, this data will come, with the help of this query that is stored in the view. So when you say select star from cells, no, this query which is stored in the view will execute and will fetch data from the master table, and that will be shown as an output. See, user will feel as if the data is coming from the sales table, but believe me, there is no data in the sales table. What is there in the sales table? This query. So when someone says select star from cells, this select star from cells pushes this query to execute. This query will execute and will show you those 80,000 cells row. Or when you say select star from marketing, there is no data coming from marketing. From where the data is coming? The data is coming from master. And guys, since the data always comes from the master query or the master table that you have written, it will always be the most up to date and the current data. There is no synchronization problem. Like earlier, the synchronization problems that I faced, when something changes in the master, then this becomes outdated and you have to recreate it. There is no such problem here because there is no data stored in the view. View is dependent for the data. I mean, view gets its data from the master table or the query that you have written. Okay, so this query fetches the data for sales department, or this query fetches the data for the marketing department. And as you can clearly see, it is very difficult to identify whether the cells that I have written is a view or a table. What user has to do with this? Okay, user is only concerned with the data, whether it is coming from through view or it is coming directly from the table. That's none of his business. Okay, he just wants the data and the data is provided. And in this case, the data is provided in a very smart way. In previous case, it was a stupid way of providing the data because every now and then you have to keep synchronizing the tables. You have to keep requesting those managers that you delete your subset that I provided because it has become outdated. Let me provide the new subset. So you are increasing your burden unnecessarily. Okay, but here you have smartly managed that situation where you don't have to worry anytime, I mean, whether this data and this data is synchronized or not, because there is no data here. There is only one instance of the data, and the data is always coming from this master table. So it will be the most up to date and the current data. Any modification, deletion, insertion that has taken place in this will always be reflected, through view when you write a query like this, select star from sales or select star from marketing. Guys, am I making sense? Hope I'm not confusing you. I'm going a little beyond than what is there in the syllabus. In your syllabus, they have just given you a simple query how to create a view. You do not have this detailed explanations given what I discussed with you. Is this clear or confused, or any question that you have? Anyone? Guys, are you all there?
Yes, that is clear.
Yes, sir, clear.
Everybody?
Yes.
So guys, this is the best use case I feel. I mean, if someone asks me what is the concept of view, apart from saying that it provides security to my base data and it helps me saving the space on my system, guys, I can give this practical example. Okay, and then I don't think after this I'll be cross questioned in the interview. I mean, there cannot be a best explanation than what we have discussed here. Okay, so I think this is quite convincing. I mean, if you give such kind of answers, I don't think people will have anything else beyond this. So okay, this is the third use, you can say, third advantage of view. There is a fourth advantage also. What is that fourth advantage? Guys, I can do something like this. I can say create view. Guys, we also say that views helps solving the complexity or resolving the complexity of some advanced queries. So many times when you write some advanced queries, when I say advanced queries, meaning queries which are bit complex in nature. And the best example of that is join query. If I'm writing a join query on more than 2 tables, say 3 tables or 4 tables or 5 tables, it will look really complex. And guys, if every now and then I'm getting a request, of such join queries from my end users, which requires me to write, make use of all those 4 or 5 tables, guys, it won't be an easy task for me every time writing that complex join query and fulfilling the request of my end users. So what I can do, I can create a view, something like this. I can say something like this, create view, my view as, and then guys, this join query that we have written, we can copy any of this join queries and store it in our view. So for example, this inner join I'll copy from here. Just see how complex this query is, which is written only on 2 tables. Just imagine if there are 3, 4, 5 tables, then what will happen? See, once I can write, but guys, every now and then, if you request me to write the query, then probably, that's not easy for me, or that's not feasible. So what I can do, I can store that complex query inside my view, something like this. Create view my view as this query, and then I'll create this view. This view will get created. Once this view gets created, it is going to store this query, the inner join query or outer, the left join query or right join query that you have written. And once after that, in case if you want to generate this inner join like output, is as you know, this inner join query is stored inside your view. So the moment you say select star from my view, guys, you're going to get exactly the same output what you were getting by writing this inner join query earlier. So this output that this query was generating is exactly identical to this output. But as you compare both these queries, just see how simple, is this query as compared to this one. So this query I can store permanently inside my view, and then I can keep, requesting data from the view. So the view will provide me the data which has been generated by the join query written on 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 tables. I don't have to worry, writing that complex query. I can just write this simple select star from my view, and that's going to give me exactly the same output that I was getting earlier by writing this join query. Hope this is clear, everyone. So it also helps you reducing or solving the complexities of some advanced queries like this inner join query or some other advanced query of MySQL. Guys, is this clear? I hope you'll be able to manage any question on view now, everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
guys, this is what we have been given in our notes. They're saying views are virtual tables which display data stored in other tables, and there is a quick syntax written: create view name as a select statement. But I think we had a very detailed discussion on this. I don't think there is any problem, after this. So that was the concept of view. So we are done with first 4 sections: select queries, views, joins, creating and modifying. And now we will jump to the 5th category of topics which has been given. So guys, we have next 3 sections based on functions: aggregate functions, comparison functions, string functions. These are the 3 major categories covered. There are more categories, but these are the major categories covered which are part of our discussion. Can someone tell me what is a function? What is the concept of a function? Guys, there are certain topics. I mean, if you understand those topics well here in this with respect to MySQL, then you will be sorted till the end, because those topics will repeat in R also, Python also, Tableau also. So if some of your concepts are clear in your first module itself, then guys, I mean, you have made yourself, very comfortable with this curriculum. Because again, when those topics will repeat in R, so me or somebody else, whoever is taking your R module, when the trainer will ask you what is a function or how to create a function, you will be able to answer it easily. You will not waste much time in the R module or Python module or Tableau module or Power BI module with the other modules that you have. Okay, I mean, when the same concept is been asked to implement. So this concept of concept of joins, concept of functions. Okay, these are some concepts which are common that you'll find in almost every application. Function is something that is everywhere. You talk in terms of any database, any programming language, any analytical language. Forget all this. Even Excel, guys. All those who have worked even in Excel like application, we have thousands of functions in Excel also. Can someone describe? Can someone tell me what is the concept of functions?
So the functions are set of operations.
Okay.
Like for example, we can make a calculator, and like the addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, that can be done by giving values.
Absolutely. So guys, functions are nothing but a set of statements or a group of statements written to perform some particular task, to implement some particular business logic. For example, uh, guys, I hope you all know the manual formula to compute average. If I give you 5 numbers, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if I ask you to compute the average of these 5 numbers, and say you're not familiar with the function which is available to compute the average, what will you do? What is the manual way of computing the average? Only few selected people answer all my questions. Others, I don't know what they're doing. Guys, there are some generic questions, simple questions, which I want everyone to participate. You all need a job at the end of the course. I don't think there are only 2-3 people who are looking for a job and others just want a degree. What is the use of the degree if that can't, provide me a job? So please, this is not your interview. This is not your exam. No, this is not your evaluation. It's a general discussion that we are having. So your answer is right or wrong, guys. That is not important. I will never mind even if you answer something incorrect. I'm there to correct you. That's my job. Okay, but I want everyone to be vocal, interactive, participating, and not just attending like school students. Yes.
Sir, it's a sum of all the numbers divided by 5.
So you have to sum all the numbers. So if I say my numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to compute average, you'll say 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, divide by total number of inputs, total number of numbers that you have, that is 5. This is going to give you the average. This is the manual way to compute the average. There is a better way to compute the average where you don't have to do all this manual things. We have a function called as average. Just call that function. This function is available everywhere, even in Excel. So just say average and pass those inputs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is quickly going to generate the average for you. Guys, both the ways I can compute the average, but the second way would be faster. If you perform something using functions, that is much more faster as compared to the manual steps that you apply. So it is recommended. I mean, in almost every language, you have thousands of functions provided, and it is recommended that you people use those functions, efficiently. Okay, as and when needed, you people use those functions efficiently instead of manually, managing that task. See, not necessary that for everything you have a function available, and there may be, I mean, in those cases also there is a solution. Most of the languages, all of the languages provide you the concept of user-defined functions. So if you can fulfill your requirement using predefined functions, use them if there is a function available. If you do not see a function available, you have some odd requirement, then you can create a user-defined function. You can create a function of your own. In R, Python, MySQL, everywhere you can create a function of your own. And whatever logic you want that function to implement, that can be embedded within that function. That logic can be specified in that function. When you create a function, guys, functions are of different types. Okay, some functions are just the function name. So I will write something like this. For example, in Excel, we have a function called as today. And this is how we call this function, I mean, in Excel. In Excel, we just say is equal to today. Guys, you know what this function returns in Excel? When you say is equal to today or is equal to now? This, sorry, you said something?
It will return as a today's date.
It is going to return the current date. So it will return today's date as 6th October 2021. And the second function will return what? It will return current date as well as time.
Date and time.
Date and time both. So if you see what we have written a function name, this is called as a function name. And this is something which is very, very important. There are many people, okay, who misinterpret this. I mean, they made a mistake. I mean, when you ask them to use a function, they believe that, I mean, this bracket is needed only when I pass some input inside my function. No, not at all correct. Guys, this bracket is required all the time. It is this bracket which is making this keyword as a function. Without this bracket, it is considered as a normal variable. It is not considered as a function. So whether you are passing inputs or not, irrespective of that, guys, this bracket is something that you can't omit, that you can't avoid. This bracket has to be there everywhere. This bracket is something which makes a keyword or a normal word, a function. Okay, so we have functions which are without any inputs. We call something that we pass within this parenthesis. There are different terminologies we use for it. We call it as input, we call it as argument, we call it as parameter, whatever you want to call this as. So not every function will require a parameter or an argument or an input, but there are some functions which definitely require, arguments. So when I talk in terms of Excel, we have a function called as VLOOKUP. Guys, VLOOKUP is a function in Excel. It's a lookup function, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, which can't be called this way. You have to pass some inputs, and there are fixed set of inputs, fixed number of inputs that you have to pass. There are total 4 inputs we pass inside VLOOKUP. First input is the search value. Second input is the range where you want to search. Third is the column index, which particular column you want to search the value. And the fourth one is whether it is an approximate match, whether you want an approximate match based search, or whether you want exact match based search. Okay, so that you specify approximate or exact. So there are total 4 parameters that you pass, only then this function will work. And guys, these number of parameters that you see are fixed. Their sequence is fixed, the number is fixed. You can't pass less than 4, you can't pass more than 4. You can't write the search at the end and this approximate and exact at the beginning. You have to exactly follow the sequence and the number of parameters. This is, you can say, the second category of function. Third category of function is where you can pass any number of parameters. Unlike this VLOOKUP, which was expecting strictly 4, we have some functions where we can pass any number of parameters. For example, the sum function, I can say 10, 20. I called sum and passed 10, 20. Second time I called sum and I passed multiple inputs. I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I passed 6 inputs. Sum is going to sum this also. Sum is going to sum this also. It will not restrict you, and tell you that why you have passed 6 parameters. So the number of parameters in some function is not fixed, it's variable. Whereas in case of VLOOKUP, it is fixed. Also, the sequence that you had in VLOOKUP, like the first argument has to be search, second has to be range, third has to be this. That sequence is also not important. So this sum 10, 20 is absolutely similar to saying sum 20, 10. I can pass 20 first and then 10 later. In any case, my output will be similar. So sum will not mind why you have passed 20 first and then 10. The output of sum 10, 20 and the output of sum 20, 10 both are similar. Guys, what I'm trying to explain you with respect, not only with respect to MySQL, but with respect to all applications, R, Python, and also that when you go to those modules, okay, and when the other trainers discuss this concept with you, whoever is taking me or anybody else, okay, then you find it really easy interpreting this concept and understanding this topic. So what I'm trying to tell you here is there are functions without parameters, there are functions with fixed number of parameters and fixed sequence of parameters, there are functions with variable number of parameters and sequence is not important. You can pass the parameters or inputs in any sequence. So this is your first category, this is your second category, and this is your third category of function, you can say. Guys, are you all with me? Is this clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So here I mean these examples were with respect to Excel, but same applies to MySQL, applies to your what you say, R, Python, everywhere. Tomorrow, if you learn programming languages like Java, C++, .NET, everywhere, guys, there is no difference. I mean, what I explained to you here with respect to Excel or MySQL, same applies, same concept is applicable everywhere. So let's start with this first category. Guys, we'll complete this and then we'll take a break. The first category, aggregate functions. So we have a category called as aggregate functions. Okay, before this, I wanted to explain you something called as a scalar function. That is not part of our syllabus, but I mean, that is something related to this. So we have a category called as scalar function. What is scalar function? Guys, difference between scalar and aggregators. In scalar functions, you apply those functions on individual values. Whereas in aggregate, you require multiple inputs, you require a group of values, only then those functions can be applied. So all these functions that you see, sum or max or min or average, guys, these functions can't be applied on individual values, as you know. It doesn't make sense if I say sum of 10. That's nonsense. What is the meaning of sum of 10? You have to say sum of 10, 20, 30, or some Guys, are you all there? Am I audible? I think the session
Yes,
got
sir.
interrupted in between. Are you all there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. What is the output of this when I say select square root of 81?
9.
Simple
9.
mathematical function. This is going to return what? 9. If I execute this, it is going to return 9 as a result. Now, if you see 81 is one single input.
Sir, your screen is not visible.
Sir,
Screen
yeah.
sharing has
Sorry,
stopped.
sorry.
It's a screen.
One second. I think it got disconnected in between, because of which the screen sharing was lost. 1 second. Visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if I say select square root of 81, guys, this is returning 9 as the answer. And if you see 81 is one single argument that I have passed. Unlike the sum where I'm forced to pass 2 or more than 2 inputs, here I'm not forced to pass more than more than one input. So it will work even on one input. That is the reason we call it as a scalar function. So select square root of 81 will give you 9. Similarly, we have other functions. We have power, we have a square. Okay, there are many other functions. When you call those functions, they just need one single input. So if I say select, we have a function called as power. Okay, just say select power. So in case if you want to say, for example, 2 raised to 3 or 5 raised to 2, something like that, you just have to say select power 2, 3. Now, when you say 2, 3, that doesn't mean there are 2 inputs. This is like 2 raised to 3. It is one input only, and the output will be 2 raised to 3, that is 8. This is going to give you the output as 8. Guys, all of these are example of scalar functions. Like this, we have sine, cos, tan. There are so many mathematical and trigonometric functions. Most of them are of this type, the scalar type. Unlike this, we have this category called as aggregate functions. We have a category called as aggregate functions. Under this category, we have various functions, like we have a function called as sum. We have already used many of these functions. We are just repeating it. So guys, if you remember in our previous examples, we used this function many times. If I say select sum of salary, you know what this is going to return for you. I say select sum of salary from H cells, and this is going to return sum of all 165 salaries that you have in your table. So guys, when you say sum of salary, salary is not one input. You can't call this as a scalar function because you see only one name appearing here. This is not a value. This is the variable name which holds 165 salaries. So behind the scene, you have passed 165 inputs to some function, and this is the output what the function is returning. Similarly, you can say select, in case if you're looking for average salary, you have to say select average salary from H sales, and this is going to return. Guys, just a moment, because there was an interruption. Let me check if the recording is still going on or stop. Give me a moment, please. Yeah, it's going on. Many times when there is an interruption, the recording also stops. Okay. So this is the average of salary. Similarly, in case if you want to find out which is the minimum salary of your table, then we have a function called as minimum. This is going to return the minimum. So guys, see, it is operating on multiple inputs, but all of these functions are returning a single output. Similarly, here I can return maximum. If I say max, select max of salary, this is going to return the maximum salary. Maximum salary is 2,43,190. Similarly, we have count function. If I say count of salary, this is going to return the count of the salary values that you have. This is going to return the output as 165, 164, whatever number of salaries you have. So this is returning 165. You have total 165 salaries. So guys, all of these are example of aggregate functions. So if someone asks you what is the difference between scalar function and aggregate function, say scalar function requires only one input, but none of the aggregate functions can be called with a single input. You require one or multiple inputs. If you are hard coding those inputs, then you specify them separated by comma, like this. This is hard coding. When you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this is hard coding. But instead of hard coding, in case if you see those inputs stored in some column, then that column name also can be passed. Like how we pass salary here, which holds some 165 salaries, and this functions will be applied on all those 165 values. So aggregate functions require multiple inputs, but they return a single output. Scalar functions operate on on single individual values and return individual responses or individual answers. Is this clear? The difference between scalar and aggregate function?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir.
So we had sum, max, mean, average. We demonstrated count and some other functions also. Guys, I don't know what was the reason of giving this AND or operator here in this section. This should have been discussed in the operator section. We have already seen this. I think we covered this topic yesterday only. If I go to my day 2 example, I think we implemented few select queries which were based on OR and AND operator. Yeah, this was the one. This is based on OR operator. And yeah, this is based on AND operator. So guys, we have already seen this before. If you have any question, you can clarify. Otherwise, let's not waste time here doing the same thing what we did multiple times before. So AND and OR, we have already covered this in our previous session. So guys, this section is done, aggregate functions. We'll take a break here. Guys, we'll take a 15 minutes break here. Refresh yourself, and then we'll resume with the next section. We have two important sections: comparison functions and string functions. These are not time consuming topics. Okay, we can finish them well before time. And let's see if time permits, we will also start this last section that is based on keys. So if this is done, then tomorrow's entire session can be utilized. I doubt that we'll be able to finish this fully. This case topic is time consuming as compared to the string of the functions that you have. So in case if we start this, see if we manage to finish, then that's great. If we are not able to, if we are unable to finish this topic today, we will finish this tomorrow, and we will do a quick refresher of all 4 sessions that we have conducted till tomorrow. Till today, whatever we are going to cover, we will have a refresher of all these sessions in tomorrow's class. And day after tomorrow, as you know, guys, on Friday, we have the case study and the the assignments. Okay, so that's really time consuming thing that you have. I want you people to solve those assignments during the sessions. As I said, there are 30 questions in the assignment, really logical and tricky questions. Okay, not straightforward questions. Every question will make you, think, before you write the answer for that. So I would like to discuss that. That's really interesting. Some 20 questions I'm going to discuss during your session, and 10 questions I'm going to give you as a task. That is one thing. We have the case study, and guys, there is a test also. So you have to prepare. I'm sure you must have seen this in your schedule also, and I'm telling you 2-3 days in advance. We also have a 1 hour test, 1 hour or 1 or 2 hours. Let me just check with your governance people. So there is a test also that you need to give. So if I open your schedule, 1 second, guys, let me show you this. Before you take the break, just give me a moment. So if you see this is your course map. I'm sure you must have gone through your course map, but let me just show you once again. So you know exactly what kind of evaluation you have. So this is your course map. So if you see this, guys, we are doing this module. Okay, so we have 4 sessions in SQL, as you clearly see: basic SQL, covering all these topics, advanced SQL, and then we have this this advanced SQL part 2, which is based on views, indexes, subqueries. Okay, so there are some topics which are listed here which are not there in my summary sheet. I'm going to discuss that with you. For example, I'll give you a few examples of date functions. I'll explain you what is this concept of subquery that you see, what is the concept of indexing and all. So we'll discuss all this. So there are 3 sessions. If you see regular sessions of 4 hours on SQL, then there is a session, the 4th session of SQL that you see. They have given only 1 hour to complete the exercises, which is impossible. Guys, the questions are so logical that no one can finish this in 1 hour. Okay, in fact, there were many batches in past for which, even to complete those 20 questions out of 30, it took, around 3.5 hours. Okay, so it's not possible to complete all the exercises in 1 hour, but I think within 2 hours, 2.5 hours, we can finish, we can discuss some 20 questions, and 10 questions, you can take it as a homework. Project doesn't require 2 hours. I think project can be completed in 1.5 hours. Okay, so some duration will get exchanged here in exercises and projects. And if you see there is a test, there is an exam of 1 hour. Is it 1 hour or is it 2 hours? That is what I need to check with your governance people and confirm, because if I'm not wrong, this is a 2 hours test, which is listed here as 1 hour. So Friday we will have all this. We'll have the exercise discussion, we'll have the project discussion, and we'll also have the test. So please be ready. And that is the reason I requested for one additional session on, to do a refresher. Okay, so that I can revise all the topics for you, so that you find, all this, I mean, doing this exercises or completing this project or, solving the exam questions easy. So I have kept one additional sessions. Apart from this 4 regular sessions, there is a refresher that I have planned. Okay,
Sir, what kind of questions will come in exam? Like we need to write the query, or we need to select something like MCQ?
No, you need to write. You have both. You have MCQs also, and the MCQs, I think if you have seen your portal, I think you by default have access to those MCQs. There are some 20 questions, but that is not considered as a regular. So guys, you have many assessments in your curriculum. There are some which are regular assessments on which you'll be evaluated, and those scores will matter, at the end, when we'll process your final certificate. But there are some assessments which are only for knowledge checking. Okay, only to test your skills on that particular topic. So you have one MCQ, which is not a regular assessment. Once we are done with all the chapters, you please attend that MCQ. So there are 20 questions. MCQ based objective, paper it is. 1 question, 4 answers, and you have to select the right answer. But this test that you see, that is listed here is a regular assessment, and this is a subjective test of around 2 hours, and there are 10 questions. 1 hour or 2 hours, let me confirm. There are some 10 questions that you have to solve, and you have to write the queries for those questions. You'll be given some scenario, and you have to understand. After understanding the scenario, you have to write an appropriate query for it. And the MCQ is not a regular assessment. It is only for your knowledge checking. Guys, is this clear? So
Yes, sir.
we have this exam scheduled for Friday. Please start going through your syllabus. Okay, and tomorrow's session is very important because I'm going to revise everything once I'm done with your regular syllabus. So please do not miss tomorrow's session. We'll take a break here and we'll resume the topic after 15 minutes. Guys, please be there, all of you. I'll mute my session and unmute after 15 minutes. Please be there. Hi everyone. Guys, are you there? Shall we resume now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the second category of functions that we have, guys, after aggregate, we have something called as comparison functions. And there are some 6 to 7 functions listed in this category. We have already seen some of them. So guys, this in is considered as a function also. It is considered.
Your screen isn't visible.
Sorry. Just a moment. Okay. So after aggregate functions category, guys, if you see the second category is comparison functions, and there are some 6 to 7 functions listed here, like this regular expression in, col, ESC, not in, is null, like, not like. We have already covered many of this in our previous session. Okay, but still we will just go through all of them once again. So guys, if you see, we have a function, the very first function given here, a regular expression. Now, what is this regular expression? This is in functioning. This is very similar to your like. Guys, some of these keywords that we discussed yesterday, and we call them as operators. You can call them as operators also and functions also. Like if you remember, we discussed in and not in. We demonstrated also, in fact. So if I open yesterday's query file, the one that we implemented yesterday, there was one example where we converted multiple ors into in. That is this one. As you see, we are writing a parenthesis. Generally, we write a parenthesis after a function name. So we call in as an operator also, and in is also considered as a function. So we have already seen this in and not in, which has been described here. Okay, so not in and in we have already seen. Then guys, this null keyword also we have seen yesterday, if you remember. So I think we inserted a partial row in our table, and then we checked how to fetch that particular row which has null values by using this null keyword. Yeah, this last one, if you see, where course is null or not null. So we have seen this also. So I think in, not in, null, I mean is null, or is not null. This is what something we have already covered. Even this like and not like. So all of these are also called as functions. I mean, call them as operators or call them as functions. So I hope you all are familiar with in, not in, is null, is not null, like, not like. The only new functions that I see is regular expression and call ESC. So I'll demonstrate this, but in case if you want me to demonstrate an example on in, null, like, once again, I can do that for you. So you tell me. Otherwise, if you think if you're you're comfortable in these, then better we will discuss new topics instead of repeating those what we have already covered or seen yesterday. This regular expression that you see, which is new here, new keyword, we haven't seen this before. This is in functionality similar to that of like operator. So when I compare like operator with this or like function with this regular expression, guys, this like is much more advanced as compared to regular expression. And in practical scenarios, you'll see people or SQL developers using like operator more than regular expression, this reg exp that you see. But otherwise, I mean, if you want, you can use this also as a pattern checking operator. There are different symbols used, unlike this like operator, where if you remember, we discussed two wildcard characters, percent and underscore. Similar to that, I mean, even in case of regular expression, we have certain symbols available by which we can check, you know, a particular pattern available in a character value. So if you remember, for like, I think we created some examples. Yep. So here we have documented it. So percent represents group of characters and underscore represents individual or single character. And we have seen various examples on this. Similarly, guys, if you want to perform a similar task, regular expression is considered as a subset of like. Like is more advanced as compared to regular expression. So guys, I mean, why this regular expression was introduced, basically, there are certain values and which we, I mean, when we accept from users, we expect that in those values, there are certain characters, you know, always present. Guys, when we accept some input from user, okay, in some application, when user inputs some value, and if you want to authenticate that value, if you want to check the validity of that particular value, okay, and you are expecting certain characters or, you know, certain format to be present, mostly for that purpose we use this regular expression. For example, when I'm expecting email IDs from my end users, I have developed an application and interface where my end users are entering their email IDs. Guys, tell me what is important in every email ID without which an email ID cannot exist or it is not considered as a valid email ID. Tell me.
At the rate of gmail.com or yahoo.com.
At the rate and dot. Guys,
Yes.
no email
Yes.
ID can exist without these two symbols, at the rate and dot. You all agree with me or not?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
It can be any domain.
Yes, sir.
It can be any website, any domain where you have created the ID. It can be Google, Yahoo, whatever. What is important in every email ID is it should have an at the rate, after which, you know, appears your you know, the type of the ID which is there, you know, I mean .com or .in or whatever. Okay, so at the rate and dot is what is expected in every email ID. So guys, in case if you want to validate email IDs, I mean, that can be, you know, done quickly with the help of this regular expression. So regular expression, you can specify that whenever user enters any input, in that input, if there is no at the rate or there is no period, there is no dot, then it should be treated as an invalid ID, and the user should be prompted again for that particular ID. Or in case if you want to perform some task similar to that of like operator using this regular expression, this is how it goes. So let's create some examples on this and understand this better. So I will title this as comparison functions. So we started with this new category called as comparison functions. Guys, just give me a moment, please. Getting lots of background disturbance. Okay, so I titled this as comparison functions. And the very first function that we are going to see is regular expression. So there are two symbols which are mostly used in REG-EXP, regular expression functions. We have the caret sign and the dollar sign. So like how you had percent and underscore, which is used to, check group of characters and individual character. Guys, here in case of regular expression, okay, let me document this. In case of regular expression, we have REG-EXP. In case of regular expression, we have something called as caret and dollar. Guys, one symbol is used to check the presence of those specified characters at the beginning of your value. Another is used to check its existence at the end of the value. Okay, so this caret and dollar, okay, are used to check something at the beginning of the string or end of the string. I have created some meaningful examples, guys. Just give me a moment. The tables that we have, let's see if we can apply this function on this table, or let me see if I have some script written to create a table, some specific table only to demonstrate this. Guys, just give me a moment. I'm sure I must have created this in other batches. Just a moment. So prior to you, this was executed in this PGA1 batch. So PGA1 started last month. They completed SQL and now they are doing Python. They completed one module of Python also. Online PGA1. This was day 3, I guess. Let me see if I have a better scenario for this and we can save some time. Just give me a moment. I need this also. Let me copy this. To demonstrate you this CoolESC function, I created a special table on which you'll understand this concept better. I'll copy this documentation. I'll copy this create table, insert table, so that I will demonstrate you every query. Only the table creation and all, I don't want to waste time. We all know how to create a table. Instead, we'll utilize our time more fruitfully. Close this now. Okay, so what we are discussing is this regular expression function. Okay, so here I have documented it. Guys, if you see this regular expression function that we have, there are two symbols, caret and dollar, as I said. Caret is used to check the presence of some value at the beginning of the string, and dollar is used to check the presence of the string at the end of the string. Let me just copy this entire documentation. I will share this with you. So in some cases, I have done detailed documentation. When I executed this module for previous batches, and this will save some time. So caret and dollar are the two symbols which are used to check the presence of the value at the beginning of the string or end of the string. For example, Guys, the student table that we have, okay, where we have roll number, student name, course of the student, location of the student. In case if you want to check presence of a value at the beginning of the string, for example, if let's write this query, will not execute the existing queries, instead we will write our own query. So I see here, I see select start from student. We have this table, we created this table earlier. And in this table we have, no, this is not a good table. Let me look for some other table. I want a column where we have only a single value. This has first name and last name both. Let's see what we have in HCLs. I say select start from HCLs. And in HCLs table, guys, what I want to check all those names that begin with TO. Suppose from my first name column, I want to see all those names that begins with, 2 letters TO. So how will you write? The same thing can be done using like operator. As I say, regular expression is a subset of like operator. So if you want to make use of regular expression to perform the task, this is how it will look like. I say select star from HCLs where first name, I say first underscore, please write it down all of you. I say first underscore name, regular expression, REGEXP, regular expression, and then in inverted quotes you say caret, because you want to check the presence of these characters at the beginning of the string. So this is how you need to write caret, and then whatever you want to check. I want to check for the presence of this substring TO. So when I execute this query, it is going to return if you have names that begins with these 2 letters TO. You can write multiple letters, okay, that you want to check. So if you want to check for names that begins with TO or TOS or TOM, you can specify multiple characters here, and this is going to fetch you. So I have just one name in my table that begins with this letter TO. Let's see if we have multiple names that satisfies a pattern. Let's say SH. I want to see all those names that begins with letters SH. I hope there will be multiple values. So if you see here, Sharin, Shani, and Sean. Okay, these are the 3 values written by this regular expression. In case if you want to check the presence of the value at the end of the string, then how this expression looks like. Instead of writing caret, you'll write dollar. You'll write those characters that you want to check, and then you'll write dollar. So let's say I want to check for okay, let's say SH only, but I want to check this. I want to check the presence of SH at the end of the string. This is how you need to write SH and dollar. You have to say SH. In case if you want to check at the end, then guys, you'll write those letters first, and then you'll write dollar. This is going to check the presence of the string at the end of, presence of this particular substring or these letters at the end of the string. This is going to check it at the beginning of the string. So the place also where you are going to mention this operator is different. For checking the beginning, you will be writing this operator first at the beginning of the expression and then followed by the letters. And while using dollar, you'll write those letters first and then dollar. So this is going to fetch you all those names that ends with SH. This will fetch you all those first names that ends with SH. And we have just one such name, Suresh, which is ending with SH. Okay, so if you have more such, more similar values present, guys, you can, let's say instead of SH, I say maybe AN. So we have Brian, Lucien, and all that. So let's see, I hope this will fetch you multiple values. Oh, there are so many. Lucien, CN, CN, Alban, Alan, Brian. There are so many values that ends with AN. Guys, is this clear? Yes?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
But believe me, guys, practically when you start using this MySQL, I don't think you will require this regular expression, because like operator, is much more advanced than this, and that can do almost everything, that you can think of. I mean, in terms of pattern checking, very rarely I have seen in production, people going for this. I have only seen people who are into application development, who create the what you say, the user interfaces, where they expect users to enter something at the time of using the application. Okay, only there the regular expression used for checking some fixed patterns of the data, like for checking email ID, there has to be an @ sign and a dot sign, and for some other hard coded values that you are expecting it in a particular format. Okay, I have seen only in programming languages, not as such in I mean much in the database applications or analytical applications, people using regular expression. This keyword or this function is more popular in application development, and that too, by, I mean, for checking some limited a number of patterns, that may exist in your environment. So this is a regular expression, very similar to your like operator or like function. After that, we have something called as poll ESC. Guys, this function is very interesting. So guys, not only MySQL, I mean your database applications, but even when you'll start your analytical tools like R and Python. And guys, whenever you will implement any statistical algorithm or model, let's say you are given some data, you are given some sales data or some employee data or customer data, and you are asked to do some modeling on the data. Okay, for example, you have been given the customer data and you have been told, find out. So let's say there is a mall, or there is a company which has some which is selling some product, and they have I mean a data of, let's say, 10,000 customers, and now the company is planning to launch some new product, and they want to find out that customers whom they can target for their new products. So all the customers who are there in their database, I mean, won't show interest in their new product that they are launching. So they want to identify only those customers who can be easily targeted for the new launches or the new product of the company. Guys, we call this in analytics, we call this as market basket analysis. So we have a algorithm covered in our Python module called as market basket analysis. So whenever you are given some data, a sales data, employee data, customer data, any type of data, and if you are asked to do some analysis on the data, guys, you will not be able to directly apply your modeling algorithms on that data unless and until certain prerequisites and certain data requirements are met, or they are checked before applying the modeling equations. So in every data that will be shared with you, like in Python, we have around 10 to 15 modeling case studies, and for every case study I'm going to share some data with you. The data will be in a CSV format, or will be an Excel format, or will be in TXT format or other file formats. Guys, the very first thing that you people are going to do in every case study is checking for data issues or data anomalies. Okay, so the data that I'm going to provide you won't be a clean data. We'll provide you as dirty data as possible, because only then you'll be able to enhance your skills. Okay, so the very first step of any analytical project is data cleansing and data transformation, where you're going to check for certain data issues in the data which is provided to you. And then once after solving those issues, transforming the data, you will continue with the modeling steps. And while checking those data issues, what are the major issues you're going to check for? Anyone? Any idea? Any clue? If I give you some sample data to do some analysis, guys, before you run your analysis, before you apply your analysis algorithms or modeling equations, what are the issues you'll check for? If those issues are not checked and not rectified, then they are going to affect the accuracy of your model. So what are those common data issues? I think I have discussed this with you earlier. That's the reason I asked you this.
So empty values,
Null data.
null data.
Missing data.
Data, very important. Guys, are going to check for missing values or null values. These are one of the most crucial issues that you'll come across while doing some analysis, okay, or while applying some modeling equation. So you'll check for null values or missing values. That's one. What else? So guys, I mean, when you talk in terms of null values, how you're going to treat this null value? Suppose there is a table. The table has 10 columns, and let's say table has 10 columns and there are 100 rows. I found some 20 rows out of 100 where out of those 10 columns, 6 column values were missing. Guys, I repeat, I have shared some data set with you, some table with you, which has 10 columns and 100 rows. Out of those 100 rows, I found 20 columns where 60% values were missing. Meaning, out of 10 columns, 6 columns had missing values. What you're going to do with this? Will you consider this for your analysis? Analysis rules and guidelines says that such records or such rows or such observations should be discarded, where you see more than 50% values missing. But what if I have less than 50% values missing? Out of 10 columns, 6 column values are present and only 4 columns are missing. Only 40% missing values I see in my row. Then I will try to replace those missing values with some default value. Or maybe with, if it is a numeric column, I'll try to replace that missing value. See, first of all, I should try to replace that missing value with the actual value. So somehow if I manage to get the actual value, that's the best thing. If you are unable to get the actual value, then you will try to replace that with the mean or median of, that entire column. Okay, that will be filled, in place of that missing value. Guys, what I'm trying to tell you here, I mean, we will discuss more on this when we will start Python and all. It's not the part of, this module, but just, thought of giving you some idea, because we are going to discuss, this concept, which is based on, that missing value or null concept only. So there you're going to replace that missing value with the mean or median of that particular column. So what I'm trying to tell you that this null values have to be treated before you apply your modeling algorithms. Otherwise, they are going to influence or they are going to affect the accuracy of your model. Apart from this missing values, there are other problems for we check, which are mainly the duplicate values. So there shouldn't be any duplicate row or record in your table. Otherwise, that's also going to affect the accuracy of your model. The third is the outliers. Guys, there shouldn't be any outlier in your table. Do you know what is an outlier?
The data which has deviated a lot from the actual distribution.
Yes. So guys, let's say I have given you some 7 numbers, and let's say out of those 7 numbers, 5 numbers are in range 40 to 50. Say 41, 42, 45, 48, 46, something like this. One of the number is 0.001 and the 7th number is 10,000. So guys, I have shared 7 values, 7 inputs with you, among which 5 inputs are in range 40 to 50. One input is way below these numbers or this range, that is 0.001, and one is extremely high, 10,000. So 10,000 and 0.001 that you have are considered as outliers. If I ask you to take the average of the 7 numbers, presence of this outliers will affect the average a lot. So again, because guys, as you know, I mean, this entire concept of analytics is based on, average or based on the approximation. So if I ask you to take the average of the 7 numbers, and if you if you include the 0.01, 001 or and the 10,000 also while taking the average, your average will be, really abnormal value. Okay, I mean, it won't be a value that, that you will, believe or that you will trust on. So what is required here as per the rules of analytics, such values should be discarded. So 10,000 and 0.001, 10,000, which is way above, the most of the other values that you have, and 0.01, which is way below, the most of the other values that you have. Since they are outliers, they do not match with most of my other values, they should be discarded. So we have this outlier problem, we have this duplication problem, we have this missing value problem, and then we have something called as inconsistency problem. Inconsistency is what? Suppose I shared one data set with you, which has information of, let's say, 15 different countries, and you are doing, some analysis, country wise. But there is a problem. Among these 15 countries that you have, there are some certain countries which have multiple names. I mean, there are certain countries which appear in multiple formats. For example, US. Okay, this country, US is one of those 15 countries. And in some rows, US is written as US. In some rows, people have written US as USA. In some cases, they have written as U.S. In some cases, they have written it as U.S.A. So guys, just see, this country US is written in 4 different formats. US, USA, U.S.S.U.S.A. Do you think all of these occurrences of USA will be treated as without, without any transformation or without any explicit management? Do you think all these 4 occurrences of US will be treated as one single country?
No.
Whichever application
No,
you're
sir.
using, SQL or R or Python, guys, without handling these 4 values or without standardizing these 4 values, do you think any of these applications will see, I know that US, U.S. USA, U.S.A. all of these are representing, all of these keywords are representing the same country. Your application does not know that. MySQL or R or Python does not know that all these 4 US keywords are representing the same country. So if you do not treat them well, if you do not standardize it, okay, and instruct your application that all of these should be treated as one single country, by default, all of these applications will treat it as 4 different countries. So US will be considered as one country, U.S. will be second country, U.S.A. will be third country, and USA will be fourth country. So guys, this is called as the problem of inconsistency. So there are several problems that you have to check, but one of the crucial problem among all this is the presence of the missing value. We have a function in MySQL, and we have similar functions when you go to R, Python, and all other applications, which are used to treat those missing values. Okay, so this function that you see call.esc is for that purpose only. In case if you have some missing values, guys, you can replace those missing values with some actual default value with the help of this function called as call.esc. Now how it works, just see here. To demonstrate you this function, I have created a specific table that I'm going to share this code with you. I'm pasting it in the chat box. You do not waste time writing this because it will take lots of time. You just copy paste this code and execute it and create this table so that you can practice this one. This is my table. I'm creating, understand first the structure of the table, and then I'll paste it in the chat box. You take it from there and then execute the query. So create table customers. I'm creating a table, naming it as customers, in which I have customer ID, customer name, city, state, and country. There are total 5 columns: customer ID, name, city, state, and country. Now guys, I have inserted some 5 to 7 rows in my table, but for certain customers, this state value is not applicable. So there are many countries in the world which do not have this hierarchy. Like how in India, India is a country which has various states. Okay, for example, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. We have various states, and in every state we have cities. For example, in Maharashtra we have Mumbai, we have Nagpur, we have Pune, we have Thane. Okay, all these are the cities of state Maharashtra. Now, such hierarchy is not true or not there for all the countries that we have in world. There are many countries in world which does not have this hierarchy. So, the country directly have the cities without any state, managing the cities. So when I'm inserting these rows for my customers, there are some customers for whom state is valid. There are some customers for whom state is not valid. So what I have done for those customers for whom the state is not valid, I have inserted a partial row, meaning I have inserted values only for customer ID, customer name, city, and country, and no value for state. And that resulted into a missing value. You saw we tried a similar example yesterday also. If you remember, when we inserted a row in our table without that course value for one of the student, it got inserted as a null value. So same problem is going to occur here. So if you see, this is my first customer for which I'm inserting a partial row. I'm inserting only customer ID, customer name, city, and country, because for this customer, there is no state applicable. These are my values. Second customer is a full row, because for this customer who is a US customer, all of these are true. The customer ID, customer name, then you have the city, state, and country. All of these are true. Third customer is again a partial row without state. Fourth is also. Fifth is again a full row. So guys, I have some full rows and some partial rows inserted in my table. Let me share this code and execute it here. First, I'll paste it in the chat box so that you also do it simultaneously. I have posted it in the chat box. Confirm if you can see this. The create table and insert into statement.
Yes.
So please take it in the chat box, paste it in your SQL environment and execute it. Do not waste time because these values are quite long. So let me execute this. My table is created, customer table is created, and all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 rows have been inserted into this. And if I fetch, guys, this is how it looks like. This is how my table looks like. So I have total 7 customers, and these are their names. These are the cities, and these are the states and the country values. So guys, if you see, for many customers, the state has a null value. Now, presence of a null value is always problematic. How do I handle this situation? I do not want, this null value to appear in my table. Okay, because I know that this is always going to create a problem for me. I want to replace this with some meaningful value. Maybe, let's say for those customers, for whom the state is not applicable, guys, I want to write not applicable, NA. NA is a value. It's a proper value. It's a proper indicator that for this customer, this state was not true. State was not valid. So guys, I want to generate, a keyword NA. I want to write a keyword NA in place of null. How can I do that? So wherever there is a null in this column, I want to replace all my nulls with NA. And for that, you have to write this query. If you see this, we have a query. You just need to say select customer name. Select customer. Suppose these are the columns I want to display. So say select customer name, city, and then you just say col ESCE. That's the function you're using. So I want to generate a report where I want to see customer name, customer city, state, and country. I do not want customer ID. Rest other 4 columns I want to display in my report. So I'm saying customer name, city, and then I'm saying col ESCE. Guys, I have passed 2 inputs if you see to this function. State, because this is the column from which I want to replace the missing value, the null value. And with what value I want to replace that missing value? With NA. Wherever it is null, it should be written as NA. Since this is an expression, this will appear as your column header. I do not want this to appear as a column header, so I have written I have specified an alias name. And I have specified the same column name, state, as my alias name also. I do not want this column name to appear differently. I want my original name to be used as an alias name also. So I'm saying as state, then I'm saying comma country from customers. When you execute this query, this is how the output looks like. Instead of null, guys, wherever you had those null values, you'll see them, getting replaced by this NA. You can write NA or anything that you want, unknown, and NA, not valid, anything that you want to mark that missing value with whichever keyword that you can write here. And instead of that null, you'll see a proper meaningful value appearing for that particular column. Guys, is this clear? What is the use of col ESCE? There is one more use that I'll not be able to demonstrate. Is this use clear? All of you confirm, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
There is one more use which I will not be able to demonstrate you here, because guys, that use, you'll be able to see by those. See, col ESCE is a common function that you'll find everywhere. It's not only MySQL, it's other databases also which supports the same function. And guys, there are many databases. These join queries that we discussed sometimes back, no? When I go back to my join section, guys, I discussed with you 3 types of join queries. I discussed that inner join, left join, and right join. Guys, this inner join is a particular type of join query, but this left and right that you see, no? They are not individual types. They are subtypes of one particular join called as outer join. So mainly we have something called as inner join and outer join. It was not given in that manner. The notes were not talking in that sense. But if you see with respect to, overall, if you see with respect to all the databases, they say that we have an inner join, we have an outer join, and there are other types of joins. When I say outer join, no, in outer join we have left join, right join, and there is something called as full join. Those who are familiar with some database, they must be aware of this. We also have a third type called as full join, left, right, and full. Left is to fetch all the data of left and matching of right. Right is to fetch all the data of right and matching of left. What if I want the matching data and the non-matching data of left and right both in my output? In that case, I will go for full join. Guys, this database application MySQL does not support full join. That is the reason why it was not given here. But what happens generally when you implement full join in other databases, the output that gets generated comes in a very vague format. It is not in your desired format, because see, when you write full join with respect to our table, if you remember guys, in one table we had roll numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, and in second we had roll number 1, 2, 3, 4. When I say full join will fetch me 1, 2, 3, 5 also, 1, 2, 3, 4 also. So the way you have written here, like in this left join, guys, what you have written? You have written student dot roll number, and then you are saying left join, and then the other table and the join criteria. Similarly, in case of right join, you have written marks dot roll number, because you wanted to fetch everything from the right table and matching data of the left table. When you are implementing full join, do not try here, it will not work. MySQL does not support full join. All other databases support that. When I write a full join, I'm going to write both my column names. I'm going to write student.roll number also, marks.roll number also, because that's the definition of a full join. It will give you data, matching data and non-matching data of both the tables. But the moment you write student.roll number and marks.roll number, you'll see two different columns coming in the output, which is a very, it is not the desired output. When you see roll number coming in two different columns, people will not appreciate that report. So in case if you want to combine the student.roll number and marks.roll number, I want to merge both of them, student.roll number and marks.roll number. Please let me show you the structure of that query. This is how the query looks like, but please do not execute. It will not work here. You'll get an error. But when I implement the full join in other databases, this is how it looks like. It is only for your knowledge and for your reference. But again, I'm telling you, do not execute it. This is how my query looks like, a full join query. I'll write here full join. And here I'll say student dot roll number, comma, marks dot roll number, comma, first name, comma, score from student. Guys, this is how my full join query will look like. And the output that you're going to generate, that output will have one first name column, one score column, but two roll number columns. One roll number will be this, another roll number will be this. See, same information coming in two different columns, people will not, like, or people will not appreciate, this work that you have done. So guys, here what I can use, here again comes the role of call.esc function. It's a different kind of job which that call.esc is going to perform here. What job it will perform and how will I use it? I will write it like this: call.esc. I will write this function call.esc, and then I'll just pass both my column names. I'll say student.roll number, comma, marks.roll number. Guys, this is how I'm going to pass. What job this call.esc is going to play here? It's going to combine, it's going to merge both these columns into a single column. So all the roll numbers from student table and all the roll numbers from marks table will be written under one single column. And what will be the title of that column? Same will be, as you all know, when we write some expression or function, same becomes the title of our output. So what you can do here, you can write something like this. Guys, this is the complete query which will work in almost every database. It will also work, your analytical applications also support this function, like SAS and all. If you execute this query, guys, what you're going to see as an output, you'll see one single column roll number containing roll number of student also and marks also. So what roll numbers will be written? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Because 1, 2, 3, 5 you had in the first table, 1, 2, 3, 4 you had in the second table. When both of them are combined, it will be written as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will appear in a proper sequence and properly written under one column, not appearing under two different columns. Then F name and then score. So guys, what job, you'll see when when you start working in the production environment, and if you see people using cool ESC, more than this purpose that we have done, I mean, for which we have used this cool ESC to replace that missing value, by this NA, more than this usage, this particular usage is more common. This is more popular. So when you ask a SQL developer for what reason cool ESC is used, there are more chances that they will answer this. I generally use cool ESC to combine, to merge multiple columns into one. So guys, this was the best example, best use case, where, I mean, with respect to which you can explain this cool ESC. So replacing missing values with some proper meaningful keyword is another usage you can say, but the primary usage is this. Guys, are you all with me? Yes, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
So whenever you see people talking about on cool ESC, that cool ESC is used to merge multiple columns, do not surprise. That's the primary use of cool ESC. Okay, so it will combine both these columns into one single column, and this will become the title of the column. Exactly the same query if you execute in Microsoft SQL or Oracle or SAS analytical application or many other analytical applications, you'll get your output. But here if I execute, I'll get an error. See, if I execute this, for this full keyword that I have written, no, I'll get an error because my SQL does not support this. You see, I'm getting an error. Unknown column student dot roll number in field list. Okay, it will give you some of the other error. Okay, so please do not execute this. Just make a note of this, for your reference. So let me delete this. Otherwise, people will try this unnecessarily. So that's all about the cool ESC function. Guys, now I hope you're comfortable with all this. You know what is regular expression. You know what is cool ESC. You know what is this in operator or in function. You know what is this null. What is the purpose of using this null keyword. What is like operator and what is not like operator. All of you. Okay, shall we move ahead?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you have any question on this, please ask me. If not today, tomorrow also, if you ask, that's okay, because tomorrow anyways we have a refresher session. So you can ask me any question right from the topics that we covered day one. Okay, next section is string functions. Guys, this is very simple category. Very simple category. You'll understand most of this, even if you just go through it once. Okay, string functions is the next category. Let's see. So now I will title this as string. Next we have string functions. String functions. We have around 5 to 6 string functions discussed. The first string function that you see here is strcmp, which stands for string comparison. Guys, this function is used to compare two strings and check for their equality, whether they are equal or they are different. Any practical example of this, guys? Can you relate this with any real life scenario, real life case? Where you think this will be helpful?
Password and confirm password.
Very good. Password and retype password or confirm password. Guys, what is expected? I mean, all those applications which shows you this interface, I mean, that prompts you to enter the password, and then again they prompt you to re-enter the password or retype the password. Mostly the banking applications or any application which has high level of security. Okay, so there, or when you generally change the password, guys, when you change your password, generally they confirm this password twice. First they'll ask you to provide the new password and then retype the password or re-enter the same password for confirming that password. So there, I mean, this function will be really helpful. What is expected that what you have entered in the enter password and what you have entered in the retype or re-enter password, okay, they must match. In case if they are different, then it is not considered as a valid password and you'll get an error message. You all agree with me? Yes, everyone?
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
a practical use case of strcmp, you can say. How it works here in MySQL. So if I, guys, I'll show you 3 cases on strcmp and you have to tell me what you conclude from this. Let me write all 3 queries. I say select strcmp string comparison. I say hello. I can pass a variable name or I can pass a constant, as you all know. That's the case with all the functions. You can pass either a hard-coded value, a constant value, or a variable or a column, where all the values are stored. So I want to demonstrate you this on some constant values. So let's say my first constant that I passed is hello, and the second constant is also hello. Let me finish all 3 and then I will ask you questions and you have to answer. So when I say select string comparison hello comma hi, what is the output of this? 0. I'll explain you, just give me a moment. My second query is I say select strcmp, and here I say let's say this is ABC, and this is BCD. No, before this, I wanted to show you another case. Say this is hello only, and this is hi. This is hello, this is hi, and this is hi, and this is hello. So you saw what is the output of this when I compare hello with hello. Guys, you saw the output generated was 0. I execute this once again. It is generating the output as, there are 3 possible outputs when you write strcmp. What are they? 0, +1, and -1. So here in this case you are getting 0. Here in this case you are getting -1, and in this case you're going to get 1. Now can someone tell me what this 0, 1, and -1 indicates here? Any guess?
One means true.
Sorry, repeat what you said.
One means the query is matching.
Okay, so in first case, guys, when you say select strcmp hello comma hello, is there a difference when you compare these 2 strings, hello with hello? No,
No difference.
there is no difference. So output returned is 0. When the strings are exactly identical, then it is going to return what? 0 as the output. When it is absolutely identical, no difference at all, then the output will be 0. When the first string is bigger than the second string, then it is going to return -1. Like in this particular case, the first string was bigger than the second string. Okay, and it returned -1. When the second string is bigger than the first string, in that case, it is going to return 1. So there are 3 possible values: 0, -1, and +1. So based on the length of the string and based on their alphabetical order, this comparison will be made. And guys, if the first string is found equal to the second string, it will return 0. If it is found bigger than the second, it will return some value. If it is found smaller than the second, it will return some other value. So 0, 1, and -1 is what? So 1 and -1 cases are considered as unequal. Strings do not match. Now I'm not interested whether first one is bigger or second one is bigger. When I use this in my business logic, what is more important for me is whether it is 0 or not. So 0 is considered as a case where the strings are identical, the strings are matching, and 1 and -1 are the cases where both indicates that the strings are not matching, where one is bigger than the other. Guys, are you all with me? So 1 and -1, both these cases are the ones, that you're going to discard. Okay, in both the cases, you're going to conclude that the second string or retype password, re-enter password does not match with your enter password. Guys, hope this is clear. Clear or confused?
Yeah.
Everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
0, 1, and -1. Please remember there are 3 possible values of strcmp, and most of the time we show interest only in 0. So when you write a logic, if you write a program, how that logic will go, you'll write a code like if the output of this comparison is equal to 0, is equal to 0, yeah, simply is equal to 0, then do this. Okay, print that the password matched or something like that. Else, then you'll write, the password does not match. So guys, what I'm trying to tell you here is, when practically this particular function is used, people will not, show much interest on that return value of, this comparison and this comparison, because both are invalid. Both indicates my, strings are unequal or strings are not identical. What I'm interested is in just to check, whether my strings match or they do not match, whether they are identical or they are different. Okay, so my logic, the business logic that I'm writing will only check whether it is 0 or non-zero. That non-zero contains this case also and this case also, the -1 case also, as well as the +1 case. So that's the concept of strcmp. Guys, after this we have the next function, lower, upper. Okay, so let's see what is this lower and upper. Those who have seen Excel, we have similar functions in Excel also.
Lowercase and uppercase.
Lowercase and uppercase. Guys, many times what happens if I create a table and if I ask you people that, hey, you insert data, say it's a student table. I want you people to individually insert your data. So suppose I want to store all your course and marks details, and I created a structure, a blueprint of some table, and I requested all my students that please enter your, let's say, registration number, the course name, the date on which you registered for this course, and various other details, which is, true for you, applicable for you. There is not necessary that, you all will enter the details in the same format. Let's say somebody inserted the data all in capitals. Somebody inserted their data all in small case. Somebody inserted the data in mixed case. Mixed case meaning where the first letter was capital followed by all small case letters. Just imagine you all 14 students, if you insert your data in the table and if the data looks different, so some rows looks all capital, some rows looks all small case, some looks, in mixed case, where only the first letter is capital. Guys, that does not look good. If I display this data in a report, it is not considered as an efficient or, as an interactive report where you haven't, followed a standard case. But then guys, how do I manage the situation? Okay, because I can't go back and tell my students that, guys, you please, enter the data in a standard case. Instead of doing that, I have a better solution. And what is that solution? I can simply, make use of these functions. So when I'm using my students' data in some report, irrespective of how they enter the data, I can convert it in my desired case, lower case or upper case, just by making use of these functions. I can say something like this: select upper. Suppose I want to see all my student names in uppercase. So we have a column called as F name. I say select, or maybe if we apply it on, let's say, the H sales table, there we have something called as first name. I say select upper of first name as first name only. We'll specify same as alias name also from H sales. Guys, what this query is going to do, it's going to convert all the first names into uppercase. See, apart from this, I also want employee ID. So I say select employee ID comma upper of first name from H cells, and this is going to show you the data in this format. So all 165 first names that you had have been converted into uppercase. All of these names have been converted into uppercase. Similarly, if you want to convert them into lowercase, so guys, you have standardized it basically. You converted all those different cases into one standard case. If you want it in lowercase, then the function is lower. Easy to understand. There is no logic, I feel, in this. It's just a matter of remembering the syntax of those functions. So this is going to convert everything into lowercase. Guys, is this clear? What is upper and what is lower? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Simple?
Yes, sir.
So lower,
Yes, sir.
upper, strcmp. Then we have this ltrim function. Okay. Any idea what is ltrim function? Anyone?
I think it's going to be remove the spaces between the strings.
Okay, guys, I'll give you one example that I experienced. I always share this example, my personal experience with my students. Okay, which was based on this a problem that we faced in a project which was related to this function only. Around 8 to 9 years back, I was involved in one development project. We were creating one development project where we created a table. I'll give you a rough idea of what was that project all about. So we created a table, a user table. So we designed an application, and we allowed access to that application to authenticated users, of the organization. And for that, what we did, we created a table in SQL database. We designed a table in SQL database, and there we entered the user. We created two columns: user ID and password, and we entered some details of some 100 users and their passwords. And then we designed one interface in Java language. So we used Java language. It was a development application that we were working with. So we created a Java interface, a login form, where user was supposed to enter the user ID. And so our application design was almost complete. We were just testing, the modules. Okay, so before deploying the project, we thought let's test it once, quickly, and see whether we are getting the desired functionality or not. So what we did, uh, in that login form, that user authentication form, okay, we allowed our users to, enter. So we gave access to our application to all the users who were intended to use, and we asked them that, hey, you enter your user ID and password and see whether you are allowed to access the application or not. And guys, we were surprised that for most of the users, it was allowing, access to the application, but there were some users for which it was not allowing. So we had written a logic, and the logic was like, when the user enters the user ID in that interface, that login form, this user ID and password, what the user has entered, will be compared with. So there was a backend connectivity. This interface that we designed in Java, no, we connected with our SQL database. That's it. That's what, that's how the applications work. Guys, when you access your mail IDs, or when you access your bank account details online, every application is based on this principle. Okay, so in those interfaces where you provide, like when you interact with ATM application, the moment you enter your PIN number, or when you access your banking services online, you go to the bank website and you enter your customer ID, password. So when you enter these details in those interfaces, this interface is connected with some backend application, which is always a database application. And what the details that you have entered will be quickly compared with the ones that they have stored in their database, in that bank's database. And only when they ensure that, only when they detect that you are a valid user, they will allow you to access your banking services. Otherwise, you'll get an error, as you all know. So same feature was we were expecting in that application. We allowed our users, all 100 users, to connect to our application, and for some users it allowed, and for some users it did not. So we were surprised that though we provided the credentials of all those 100 users in our table, and all of those users were valid, why it was allowing for some users and why it was not allowing for some users. And guys, believe me, it took some 4 hours time. It was such a stupid mistake that we made while designing the table, because of which we had to suffer, for almost, we were some 4 to 5 developers, and we spent some 4 to 5 hours, around 3 to 5 hours, just to debug, that particular problem. And you know what was that problem? While creating that table, for some users, we inserted a space, while inserting their IDs. For example, it was by mistake, accidentally, there was a space written. For example, if I just go back to your this table which I created yesterday, just see here. I think in this we have written some insert command. So yeah, this one. Guys, in this particular case, what we did, for some particular users, Okay, when we provided the value, for example, let's say this user ID Rahul Sharma. Okay, so there was a user, by the name Rahul. Now instead of writing Rahul while inserting the data in our table, instead of writing Rahul by mistake, I mean accidentally, it was, for some users there was a space created. It was written as space Rahul Sharma, something like this. And guys, because of this space that we had now, when that user with name Rahul was connecting to the application, he was getting an error. He was not allowed to access because that user was entering Rahul as the name. In my user interface, he was entering only Rahul. But in my database, by which I was authenticating my user, it was space Rahul. So when that Rahul was compared with space Rahul, it was found unequal, non-matching. And then the access to that application was denied. This was the mistake which was made accidentally while inserting the value, which took around 3 to 5 hours to debug. We were surprised why it was allowing for some users and not allowing, though we asked only those users for whom the credentials were stored in the database. But still, for a few users it was working. For a few users it was not working. And the mistake was, this small error. Okay, that for while entering data for some users, it was by mistake. In some users there was a leading space, in some users there was a trailing space, meaning for some users the space was written before the name, and for some users it was after the name. In both the cases it is problematic. Guys, if you specify a string value, a character value like this, and if you write a space, a leading space or a trailing space, that space also is considered as part of your value. That is also considered as a character. And while entering this credential, if you specify it without space, then you will not get access to the application. So that was the problem. And guys, such problems can be avoided. Then we realize that why we haven't used this particular function called as trim. So most of the languages provide you 3 functions called as ltrim, rtrim, and trim. Ltrim is used to remove the leading blanks that you have. For example, if you have a space before the name, that can be removed with the help of ltrim function. If you have a space after the name, that can be removed using rtrim. In case if you want to remove both, then we have a common function called as trim. Some languages support only ltrim, rtrim, some supports all 3 of them. Leading spaces, to remove leading spaces, to remove trailing spaces, and to remove leading and trailing both. Guys, is this clear, all of you? You understood what is the use of this function? So guys,
Yes.
even if you have made this
Yes, sir.
while inserting this value, you by mistake created this leading and trailing blanks, you need not worry, because while comparing this value with what user has entered in the interface, if you use this trim function, then the comparison will be made by removing the spaces. As of now, what was happening, the comparison was with space. But if I use a trim function, a ltrim, rtrim, or trim function, which that is going to remove the space, and then it is going to compare Rahul with Rahul. So when Rahul is compared with Rahul, it is found, it will detect that as matching. But when space Rahul is compared with Rahul, then that is going to be concluded as non-matching. So this is how those functions work. So whenever you are writing this business logic to compare two values, please ensure you always use this trim function. At times this helps a lot. There is no harm using this function. There is only an advantage. Okay, so this is how the function goes. You say select. Suppose I want to use ltrim. So I'll say select ltrim, and I'll write lots of spaces here, and then let's say my name. See, without this, if I print, this is how it looks like. If I say something like this, this is how the output will look like. This is how it will be printed. All those spaces will be printed. So this is coming as the column name also. All those spaces will be printed and then the value. But guys, if you write ltrim here, that's going to remove all the leading blanks that you have and only the value will be printed. It will come properly. So all these leading blanks have been removed. Instead of leading blanks, what if I have trailing blanks? Okay, the blanks are after my name or after my text. Then you can use another function called as rtrim, which is going to remove the trailing blanks that you have. This is your rtrim function. Let's check if we have trim function also available here, like many other applications and languages. I really doubt we have trim here. Let's check. Oh, we have it here also. Great. So I say trim, and suppose I have leading as well as trailing, both the blanks. So what this is going to do? This is going to remove leading as well as the trailing blanks. So it's just truncating or removing the spaces that you have before the value, after the value, or both the places. Guys, is this clear? All of you? What is the use of trim function? Everyone comfortable?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So we have seen three functions related to trim, L trim, R trim, and just trim. Guys, just give me 2 minutes. Please remain connected. It's not a break time. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. Meanwhile, you can try in case if you haven't tried this function.
Guys, do anyone have that course plan which sir was showing?
Yes, I guess I have.
Can you share it in the group?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, guys, let's resume. So the next function that we have is substring. Has anyone used this function before? This is again a very common function that you'll see everywhere. Anyone, any idea what is substring?
Yes, it basically fetches a part of a string.
Okay, so tell me what is the output of this? I say select substring. I say select substring, and in the substring I pass a string, let's say Marticus. This is my string. You can write it in single or double quote, and then I say comma 2, comma 4. What is the output of this? If
It will start the word from the index 2 and end it with the index 4.
What would be the final output?
I guess 0, 1, 2. It will be AR. It will be AR, I guess.
Only AR?
Yes.
Guys, the output of this will be, it will be mart. The output of this will be mart. It is going to start. So what is the substring function? Basically, substring is a function that is used to extract portion of a string. Let's say you have been given a date value. The date is given as date, month, year. And from date, month, year, from that whole date value which you have been given, you have a requirement where you want to fetch only the year portion, or only the date portion, or only the month portion. Then this function is really helpful. There are many modeling case studies that we have as part of our curriculum, which requires, you to extract portion of a given value. So substring is a function which helps you extracting portion of a given, string. If this is my main string and I want to extract, let's say, this portion of the string, MART, then this is the expression I'm going to write. So this is the string from which you want to extract, portion or part of the string. This is representing the position from where you want to extract. Okay, this does not start with 0, this starts with 1. This is position 1, this is M is 2, A is 3, this I is position 1, M is 2, A is 3, R is 4, T is 5, and so on. When I say 2, 4, what is this 2 representing here? The position from where you want to begin extraction. And what is this 4 representing? There are many people who misinterpret this. They say that this is the position where the extraction should stop. I say no, that's not correct. This represents how many characters you want to extract, not where to stop. So the extraction will begin at second position, that is M, and how many characters it is going to extract? Total 4. So MART, 4 characters will be extracted, and the output of this will be, guys, the output of this will be MART. So this represents the position from where you want to begin extraction, and this represents how many characters you want to extract. For example, if I have something like this, let's apply it on that date example that we discussed. I say substring, select substring. Guys, suppose you have I have shared some file with you which has 1000 date values. Okay, there are 1000 different date values, and my requirement is such that from all those 1000 date values, I want to extract only the year portion. And this is the format of those date values. This is how they are there. It is like 2021. This is the default format in MySQL, as you know. 2021 06, sorry, 2021-10-06. So it is month, date, and year format. That's the default format of MySQL, if you know. So if you want to extract 2021 from here, from this given date, like this, there are many other dates, and from all the dates, I want to extract this 4-digit year. Can someone help me writing this expression? Help me completing this function. What will I write in order to extract 2021? Come on.
1,4.
1,4. So 1,4 will give you not, so this is a constant value. Instead of this constant, if I specify the column name where all my 1000 dates are stored, from all those 1000 dates, it is going to extract the year portion. So you can extract the year portion or the month portion or the date portion of this given date. That's the job of the substring function. Guys, hope this is clear to you now. What is substring? All of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the last function that we have is concat. The concat function. This is exactly similar to, those who have worked in Excel. In Excel also we have a function called as concatenate. There its full name, concatenate. Here it is a little short, it is concat, but the purpose is same. What is the purpose of this function? I say, you see the query and then tell me what is the output of this query. I say select concat, then I say maybe say what is the output of this query?
It will be Viren
Viren
Shah.
Shah.
It is going to write. So what if I don't write the space in between?
It
Now
will be just Viren Shah without space.
It's going to concatenate or combine both the strings without any space in between. If you're looking for a space, then you must write it this way. So concatenate a space also. This is my first string concatenated with space, that concatenated with the last name of this person. So this is how it will look like. When I say select concat first name concatenated with a space, concatenated with last name. What is the output of this? From it cells. And I say as full name. Guys, tell me what is the output of this?
A combination of first name and last name.
It's going to combine, see the individual columns that you have in your table as first name, last name. It's going to combine all 165 values that you have in first name and last name with a space in between. And it's going to be written, it's going to be generated in your output as full name. So what I'm trying to tell you here is this function can be applied on constant values like this, individual values, or it can also be applied on a column which contains multiple values. See here, this was your table. All first names and last names have been concatenated, combined together. Is this clear, everyone? What is concat function?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you can concatenate any number of strings, string 1, string 2, string 3, string 4, till string n. There is no limit as such that you can concatenate only 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Any number of strings can be concatenated. So guys, we are done with all three categories of functions: string functions, comparison functions, and aggregate functions. Now I would like to start, since we have lots of time pending, I will start with the next topic. If you have any question based on the previous topics that we have completed, please clarify. So guys, we have 5 minutes break now. You just go through all the topics, all the completed topics, and let me know if you want me to repeat anything. If not, then we will continue with this keys topic. Okay, because this is a time consuming topic. And if we start today, see, if we finish it today, well and good. If not, then, I mean, at least if we start today, it will get over soon tomorrow, and then we can utilize most of our time in doing the revision. So you have 5 minutes to go through all the topics that we have discussed today. There's three categories of functions: string functions, comparison functions, aggregate functions. Then this concept of joins, views. 5 major topics we discussed today. If you are comfortable with this, then allow me to go ahead. Else, you let me know, which topics you want me to repeat and all. So guys, you have 5 minutes to go through. After 5 minutes, I'll come back and ask you if you have any question, any doubt. If not, then we will continue with this case topic. So please have a look of all the topics that we have completed. In case if some example is pending, you are still in middle of the practice, please complete that, and then we'll resume it with the next topic. Yes, all of you. Guys, have you gone through? Anything you want me to repeat? Guys, are you all there?
Yes, sir.
Sir, there are
Yes,
topics
sir.
written in that map, like date functions, subqueries, union,
Yes,
intersect.
I'm going to cover that also. Once I'm done with this sequence that I'm following, I will jump to that subqueries and indexes and all those topics which are given. So that's also there in my agenda list. So shall we start with this next topic, keys that we have, everyone?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So guys, this is one of the most interesting and important topic that we have. As I said at the beginning of the session, I mean, creating database or creating tables, okay, it is not as easy as it sounds. Okay, so it is not, simply, I mean, saying create database name, and then you say create table name and specify all the columns and types and you're done. Okay, you have to ensure that when you create the tables, okay, in which users are going to enter data in future, guys, you have to ensure that all those tables have proper business rules. I mean, on all those tables, you have implemented, all the required business rules. You have enforced all the constraints and restrictions so that people, do not misuse your information or do not enter any invalid information in your table. Okay, so it is very important for you to do the validation of those, I mean, the various columns that you have in the table. So something which you are, which you are introducing as a mandatory column, you have to ensure that users are no way, able to skip that column that you want to consider as mandatory. So users are forced to enter or provide a value for mandatory column. Unless and until they enter a value for mandatory column, they should not be allowed to move ahead. Okay, similarly, if there is a column optional, okay, then users, can enter some value in that column or can also avoid, entering the value. But those columns which are mandatory, they need to, ensure that there is a value entered. Similarly, guys, there are certain columns of my table which always have to be unique. Like for example, if it is a student table, then I never expect, duplication of roll number in the student table. In no circumstance, guys, I should allow, duplication of the roll number in the student table. So if some roll number is already existing, then when user attempts to enter the same roll number, some error should come and stop that user entering or repeating the same roll number. Okay, similarly, if I want to make some values in a particular column unique, I don't expect any duplication in that particular value. Okay, so even there it should be possible. Other than roll number, if there are more columns where I'm looking for uniqueness, I should be able to do so. Whenever user is skipping some particular column, guys, there should be some default value. I'm not going to waste my time writing such functions like, call ESC and all to replace the missing values with some proper keyword or some other value. It should automatically, be handled. Okay, so I want some mechanism where the missing values are automatically treated. In the sense, wherever user skips some value, user inserts a missing value, that missing value should get replaced with some default value. Then I'm looking for, like, wherever my multiple tables have some kind of relationship, like for example, student and marks table or employee and payroll table. Then guys, in this cases also, I want automatic management of my, transactions. For example, in student and marks, when you see these two tables, student and marks, student is my parent table and marks is my child table, because marks is dependent on student. If there are no students, then there shouldn't be any marks. If there are no employees, then there shouldn't be any payroll information in the payroll table. So guys, I want some dependency of payroll on employee. I want some dependency of roll number. Okay, sorry, the marks on the student table. Okay, so I want to establish such dependencies so that whenever I delete a student, automatically all the marks, so if I delete the student from the regular student table, all of the corresponding marks of that student should automatically get deleted from the child table. I do not want to waste my time deleting it from multiple places. First go and delete it from the student table, then go and delete it from the marks table. No, I'm looking for automatic management of, such transactions. So when I delete something in my parent table, in child table, it should automatically get deleted. When I update something in my master table, it should automatically get updated in my child table. If you remember, sometimes back when we implemented the join queries, guys, we could insert, some matching values and some non-matching values in our table. So if you remember the student and the marks table that we used here. So if you see, this is what I inserted in student table, roll number 1, 2, 3, 5. And in marks table, I inserted roll number 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, this is logically incorrect. Guys, if I do not have a student in my student table, how come you have marks of that student? So what you have in student table, which is your master table, is roll number 1, 2, 3, 5. So ideally, in marks table, you should have only 1, 2, 3, 5. You should not have, this roll number 4. As of now, there is no restriction. That is the reason. So I inserted that. I mean, I kept one roll number unique because I wanted to demonstrate you this left join, right join. But logically, guys, I mean, in a practical scenario, this shouldn't be possible. Okay, because if there is no employee existing in your employee table, there shouldn't be any payroll information. You will not pay somebody who is not part of your organization, who is not working for your organization. Or you should not have marks of a student who is not part of your institute, who is not there, with you, in your class. So how you're going to manage all these things? Guys, there comes the great role of, all these keys that they have listed here. Okay, so we have various keys in the form of primary key, foreign key, composite key, unique key, okay, which will help you managing all this parent-child relationship, automatic management of the data, okay, ensuring that there are no duplicates, returned to that column. All of these tasks can be implemented with the help of this key. So keys are nothing but a kind of constraint. They are kind of business rule that you're enforcing on your table, and people are forced to follow these rules. If they do not follow these rules, they'll not be able to perform any transaction against your table. As simple as that. So guys, it sounds very interesting. What you say? Now let's see how it works. But isn't it sounding interesting? Okay, a table having all this validations and business rules enforced. Okay, where, I mean, while inserting the data, it is checking what type of data you're inserting. Guys, are you all there?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
As of now, the tables that we created were kind of random tables where everything is allowed. Okay, you can have null values, you can have duplicate values, you can insert any nonsense value as such. I mean, there is no rule which will restrict you that this is, or which will differentiate that this value is valid and this is not valid. Now I want that kind of differentiation. Okay, I do not want to allow any kind of values in my table. I'm looking for some specific values. So let me write a quick comment here. So we started with keys topic. And these are the different types of keys we are going to discuss. So I'm going to cover all these regular keys that we have, plus 1 or 2 extra topics on this, because they are quite interesting. So I'm going to demonstrate you all this that we have: primary, foreign, composite, and unique. Primary key, foreign key, composite key, unique key. Then I'm also going to demonstrate you something called as not null and default. We have something called as not null and default. So 5 regular topics: primary, foreign, composite, and unique, and 2 additional: not null and default. That will complete your list. So let's start. Let's put it properly. So guys, let's start with the first key, which is primary key. Primary key is the most useful or the most important key that every table, must have. There is no table in a proper database environment. No table should exist without a primary key. In fact, the table design is not considered as complete without a primary key. So primary key is basically the main identifier or the unique, identifier of each row that you have in the table. Okay, where no duplication will be allowed. Okay, and this is going to be I mean, this is going to act as your primary information of the table. So in case if I give you some raw informations, guys, again, that's a task. How will you identify that? For example, in case of student table, if I give you columns like roll number, name of the student, course of the student, location of the student, okay, the birth date of the student, the join date of the student, and all that information. Okay, how will you decide, among all these columns that have been shared with you, which is the column that can be selected as a primary key? So guys, it's very simple. Ideally, that column should be selected as a primary key where no duplication is possible. When I talk in terms of student first name or last name or course or the date of join, when he joined for that particular course, guys, all this information can be repeated. You can't restrict, I mean, a student in your class because there is already a student by that name in your class. This is not a good excuse. Okay, you can't have, you can't restrict, saying that the join date of two students, I mean, for a course cannot be same. Okay, but there are certain informations, I mean, there are certain columns in your table which has to be unique. Otherwise, if everywhere duplication is allowed, then there won't be any primary identity of your table. So primary key, I mean, when you're selecting a column as a primary key, you have to ensure that, that's the column which can uniquely identify each row of your table. That's the master information of your or primary information of your table. So how will you create this? We'll say something like this: create. First of all, we'll create a table without any primary key and say the problem. I say create table. I create a table, call it as product. My table name is product, products, whatever you want. And in this table, I have, say, product ID. So I have a column, prod ID, product ID, which is of integer type. Then there is a product name, which is of character type, character 20. Then there is a quantity of the product, which is integer, and the price of the product, which is again integer. This is a normal table that I have created without any constraint, without any key, without any business rule. And because of that, there are lots of disadvantages, I mean, that this table will give you. For example, when you're inserting any value, when I'm inserting data into this table, I can skip any of these columns. I mean, I'm not forced to provide value for a particular column. In case if I want to skip this product ID, I can do so. In case if I want to skip the product name, quantity or price, I can do so. So as such, there is no restriction. It's my wish whether I want to insert all the information or I want to insert some selected information. I mean, there is nothing compulsory for me as of now. So I say insert into product, values, and I specify, let's say, value as 1, so that's my product ID, or let's say 101, that's the product ID. Product name is, let's say, laptop. The quantity is, let's say, 2, and price is, say, 40,000. So this is the first row of my table. I execute this. This is a full row that you have inserted. If you say select, start from product. Sorry,
S is missing.
So I execute this once again. I say select start from products. And when I execute this, this is what I mean, it has inserted as the first row of my table. Now, if I execute the second time, same row will be inserted twice. See, there is no restriction. I mean, there is no way I can stop, re-entering the same row as of now in the current state of the table. See, this is nonsense. Exact same product, same information you have repeated in the table. Okay, so duplication is allowed. Similarly, if I want to insert a partial row, so I'm inserting a product without its name, or I'm inserting a product without its product ID. Okay, that shouldn't be possible. I say insert into products. Now I will insert my next row without any product ID. I'll say insert into products, and let's say for this product, I'm only inserting, it's a partial row, so I must write the product name, the columns for which I'm providing the value, the quantity and price. So I'm saying insert into products, values. Sorry, values you have to write after this column list. Values, and then I say a product name is desktop. Product, quantity is 3, and price is, let's say, 30,000. Individual unit price is, say, 30,000. So this is a partial row that you have inserted. Again, when I say select star, see other information, guys. If you are not inserting quantity or price, I understand. But if you are not inserting product ID and product name, then this is quite, strange. You have a product listed in your table without a product ID or without a product name. So I do not want to allow, such null values for first two columns, product ID and product name. But as of now, everything is allowed because there are no business rules or no keys implemented on your table. Okay, guys, now I will drop this table and recreate it with keys. Now I'll specify some constraints. I'll say drop table products. This is going to destroy my table, and then I'm going to recreate the table. My table is destroyed. Now let me create, and what I want to make this particular column as the primary key of my column. So the first key that we are demonstrating is primary key. I want this column to act as the primary key of my table, the measure or the main identifier of this table. Guys, just see, just by writing this primary key keyword, which will make this key as the primary key as the measure information of your table, lots of things can be avoided. Lots of nonsense can be avoided here. Okay, the duplication, inserting missing value. Okay, all of those things will not be allowed now. Now, if I execute this, the table is created, recreated. I insert the first row, it will get inserted successfully. So when I say select star from products, this is what got inserted in the products. Now if I insert this row once again, guys, now you'll get an error. See my error. It's saying duplicate entry 101 for key primary. Are you all able to read this error message which is coming in my output window?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's not allowing this 101 because there is already a product detected with this ID 101. So no duplication is allowed. In case if you make something primary key, a column as primary key, no duplication will be allowed for that particular key. So unless and until I change this, it will not allow me to insert this row. When I change this to 102, I change this to 102 and this as, let's say, desktop. This has, let's say, 3, this has 30,000. Now it will allow me to insert this row because it's a unique row. It's not duplicate. Now if I say select star from products, you'll see two rows inserted. When you apply the constraints, generally you'll see the last row coming as null. This is not your current row, but this is a future row. Okay, so it's just an indicator, just ignore it. Okay, but these are your actual two rows that you have inserted. Now using this insert query, I will try to avoid the primary key column. Let's see if it is avoidable or not. Now I'm going to insert my third row without product ID, and it shouldn't be possible because primary product ID is made as the primary key, and a primary key cannot be left blank. A primary key is by default mandatory. For primary key, the null status is by default no. You want to verify that? Guys, how do we verify whether the null status of primary key column is yes or no?
Partial.
Sorry?
Try inserting with partial by
No, no.
avoiding the product ID, then it will show an error.
There, so I'm going to get an error. I know that. But is there another way we can check? We have already discussed that option.
Describe table name.
Yes, describe table name is the answer. So if I say describe and what is that? Products. Even here you'll come to know where null is allowed and where it is not allowed. So this is something we discussed yesterday. I say describe. Guys, if you remember yesterday, when we created a table and when we described it, for all columns, this null status was yes, meaning everywhere null was allowed. But now since you have made a column as a primary key, no null values allowed for that column. Other columns can have null values, but primary key can never have a null value. Now you cross check. You try to insert a null value for primary key column product ID and see how the error comes. I call this as mobile. This quantity is 5. This is, let's say, 50,000. So this is some product you're inserting without a product ID, and this is not going to be accepted. See, I'm getting an error. It's saying field product ID does not have a default value, meaning it's not accepting this row without a product ID. Earlier, I could insert this, successfully, but now I'm unable to do so. Guys, is this clear? What is the importance of making a column a primary key? So primary key column is the primary identifier of your table, is the unique identifier of your table. Are you all with me? It gives you several advantages in terms of no missing value allowed for the column, no duplicate value allowed for the column. Guys, you're not confirming. Are you all there?
Yes, sir.
Is
Yes, sir.
it clear to everyone? Only few people are confirming. I don't know what others are doing. Guys, this session is not for selected students, it is for all students. Okay, so even if one student has not understood the topic, then this training agenda is lost, or we failed with our agenda. Okay, so some students understand this really quickly, and some takes time. That's okay, but the concept has to be crystal clear to all of you. Only then moving ahead will make sense. Otherwise, I don't know where we are heading then if it is not clear. So this is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, another thing, guys, your table can have only one primary key. Many a times this key is compared with something called as unique key. Even I have this question in my interview set that I'm going to share with you once I'm done with this module. Guys, many a times this primary key is compared with this unique key because this is also going to perform almost similar job. But there are few differences when you compare a primary key with a unique key. Guys, first of all, understand what is the similarity between primary and unique. What is the similarity? Both are going to ensure that no duplicate value is allowed for that column. Like you saw, when I re-executed the row with same product ID, I got an error saying that that product ID already exists. So duplication was not allowed here. But guys, other columns, as of now, duplication is allowed. I can have my product name duplicated, quantity duplicated, price duplicated. What if I want some of my other columns also to be unique? Now the problem is I can't make those columns as my primary key because everywhere, not only MySQL, but everywhere the rule is your table, one table can have only one primary key. You can't have a second primary key. So how do I make my other columns unique? Because see, something becomes unique only when it is made as a primary key. So what if I want to make product name also a unique value based column? So no duplication should be allowed here. Guys, you can make this particular column a unique column by writing something called as unique key. But the major difference between primary key and unique key is similarity is both makes your column values unique. Difference is in primary key column null value is not allowed. In case of unique key column, null values are allowed. Guys, your unique key based column can have a null value. Primary key column cannot have a null value. You saw that when we executed this particular query. This is one major difference. Another major difference is you can have as many unique keys as you want, but you can have only one primary key for a table. Whenever you are asked this question, you are only supposed to discuss these 2 points. We are not expecting you to describe the similarities, no other features. These are the 2 important points that we expect, when we ask you this question, differentiate primary key and the unique key. Guys, immediately after your batch, from 3 o'clock, I have a mock interview it's going to go for 3 days, starting today. So today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow. One of the batch in our Pune center has completed their PGA program, and now they will be going for the interviews. So I've been told to conduct their final mocks, and they have their mock scheduled today, tomorrow, and day after, from 3 to 6. And I'm going to ask such questions, when I'm going to evaluate those students. Okay, so I'm definitely going to ask them, when I'm asking questions from SQL module, what is the difference between primary key and unique key? And when I ask these questions to someone, I only expect that they are talking about these two differences, that a table can have only one primary key, but any number of unique keys. And by default, the primary key column is automatically made as not null, but a unique key based column, can be left, as blank. You want to see that? Drop the table again and recreate it. After recreating, you can describe and check. The status of product ID would be, the null status would be no, but for product name, it will be yes, indicating that you can have a null value in product name. Can you all see this? Everyone? This status has not changed. This is still
Yes, sir.
clearly indicating that there can be a null value in this column, but there cannot be a null value. So that's the major difference between primary key and foreign key. Now let me insert few values and check how the unique, we have already tested how the primary key works. Now let's check whether the unique key is also working as desired. So I'll do one thing. By mistake, I have overwritten the first row. I never knew that I'm going to delete the table. So this was my first row. So this is my first row. This is product ID, product name, quantity and price. This is product ID, product name, quantity and price. I insert my first row, it will take it. I insert my second row with the same product name, let's say. I keep this also as laptop. Product ID is different. Okay, but I have kept the same product name. And if you see in my create table, I have made product name as a unique key. So it will not allow any duplication in this column, and this entire row will be rejected because of a duplicate product name. See, I'm getting an error. Duplicate entry laptop for key P name. Guys, this transaction has been rolled back. It has not been accepted. Okay, so I'm not able to insert this particular row. It will get inserted only when you change this product name. Only when you say desktop or some other product name. Now it's been inserted. Now if you say select star from products, you'll see these two rows getting inserted. We'll check the second advantage also. So the second advantage of making something unique is, so first advantage is it will always ensure that it is only one advantage you have. There is no second advantage. It will ensure that the value that you insert for that column will always remain unique. A blank value or a missing value will be allowed in that. So that's a kind of disadvantage that you have in case if you want to check. Okay, so do one thing. Now you supply product ID. Let's do it separately in a new query. Now I'll insert a row and I will try to skip product name. The way I have skipped product ID in this query to check whether my primary key is allowing that or not. Similarly, in this query, I will do one thing. I'll specify product ID, prod, how is it? Prod underscore ID. Prod underscore ID, quantity and price. I'll not insert the value of, value for this column, which is product name. Instead, I'll say product ID, price of the product. This is 10 and this is, let's say, price is 55,000. And the ID of this is, let's say, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Say 104. So what I have inserted, product ID as 104, quantity as 10, and price as 55,000. But I have not inserted the product name. We just want to cross check whether a null value is allowed in a unique key column or not. So guys, you will not get any problem for this. No error will come for this, and this row will get successfully inserted in your table. See, I'm not getting any error. And now if I say select star from products, see 104, this is null, quantity is 10 and price is 55,000. So null values allowed in a column which is made as a unique key, but no null value will be allowed in a primary key column. Guys, I hope you are clear with both those, the primary
Yes, sir.
and the unique key concept.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now
So why all of these values are null?
sorry. Yeah, so sometimes back I told you, when you define constraints or keys for your table, no, then it shows the next row, which is a future row, right? Rather, when it is not your current row or existing row. Okay, this is a future row where it writes, by default the null values. You just ignore it. That's a kind of feature we have in MySQL. As of now, I have only 3 rows in my table. This is my 4th row. The moment you insert 4th row, this will vanish. Okay, and this will be shown for the next row. So every next row is shown using null indicator, and this comes only when you create constraints or keys for your table. If there is a table without constraints, then this is not shown.
Okay.
Guys, we will cover one more and then we will conclude our session for today. The remaining 3 we will cover tomorrow. So we have seen primary, we have seen unique. I will demonstrate to you this foreign key, which is a time consuming and the most interesting topic tomorrow. This requires almost half an hour time. Foreign key, composite key also I will discuss once after completing foreign key. Unique we have already seen. We can quickly see this not null and default maybe before we close the session today. So what is this not null? Guys, not null, as the name suggests, as you saw when we described our table, except primary key, all other columns were shown as null. I mean, their null status was yes. What if I want to make my other columns also mandatory? See, even after making this product name a unique key, it hasn't become mandatory. It is still optional. What if I want to make this, a mandatory column similar to that of primary key? Or I want to make my quantity a mandatory column or price a mandatory column? What do I do? Here comes the role of the constraint called as not null. So I will do one thing. I'll drop my table once again. I say drop and recreate the table with one more constraint that is not null. You can make any number of columns as not null. There is no constraint on number of columns which can be made not. I want to make my quantity as not null, meaning I want to make my quantity as a mandatory column. You just have to write this keyword not null. It's not a rocket science. It's very simple. Just say not null and you're done. Create it once again. And after creating, you check. First, you can describe the table and check whether the status has changed to no or not. Guys, can you see this? Now the quantity also has become a mandatory column of your table and you will not be able to skip this column while inserting data. Are you all with me? Guys, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Try to skip. If you, while inserting data, if you try to skip quantity, then you'll get an error. Let's see. This is a full row. If I insert, it will take it. There is no problem here. It's a full row. That will get successfully inserted. But if I try to insert a partial row without quantity, it's a problem. So I say, let me copy paste this only and make changes. I say insert into products, and this time I want to insert product ID. I want to insert product name. I do not want to insert the quantity. I want to see whether that not null key is working or not. So I want to insert only product ID, product name, and price. My product ID is, let's say, 104, and this is the name of the product, say mobile, and this is the price, 55,000. So this is like a row without any quantity value. This is the product ID, this is the product name, and this is the price of the product. Now this should not be allowed because you have made quantity a mandatory column. You can't, insert null values in that column now. Now if I execute this, I'll get an error. So the error says filled quantity doesn't have a default value, meaning this quantity can't be left blank because it's a mandatory column. That's the advantage of making some column not null. Right? This not null constraint that we have now, as I said, any number of columns can have this constraint applied. like this unique key, here in not null also, you can make one or more columns as not null, whichever columns you want to make mandatory. You do not want users to leave those columns blank. And this not null feature is implicit here. Guys, when you are describing primary key, you can mention this point also. For primary key, you don't have to write not null, because primary key is by default not null. So primary key is by default not null. But if you want to make other columns not null, then you'll have to write explicitly this not null. Like here, I'm getting the uniqueness feature, but I'm not getting that not null feature. So guys, I can apply multiple constraints. After unique key, I can also say not null. So now I have made this column similar to that of primary key, because now this column will not allow any duplicate value. At the same time, it will also not allow any null value. So you can make any number of columns as your null values. I mean, not null. You can apply this constraint not null. I hope this is clear. What is this concept of not null?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Unique, and we discuss not null. The other three constraints that we have: foreign key, then we have this composite key, and default constraint. All these three we are going to discuss tomorrow. So guys, tomorrow's agenda, let me give you a quick overview what we are going to cover tomorrow. So these three constraints that we have, I'm going to cover for you. And then there are certain topics which were not given here in this summary sheet. Like if you see this topic, guys, all of these we have covered. Introduction to SQL, you know, DDL, data definition language, create, alter, drop, you know. In DML, insert, update, delete, you know. In DQL, data query language, the select query, you know. Okay, all of this, excuse me. Okay, this aggregate functions, you know. Okay, in the second category, if you see second session, this date functions we have not seen yet. I'll show you some date functions tomorrow. At the same time, we covered the join concept today. Very similar to this join concept, we have this concept of, you know, union, you know, like operators, which are again a mechanism of joining two or more tables. I will explain you tomorrow what is the difference between this. Guys, just a moment. So tomorrow we are going to cover this date functions. We are going to cover this union operator that we have. And there is these two topics. So views we have already seen. Indexes is what we have to see tomorrow, and subqueries. So subqueries, indexes, union operator, and date function. These are the topics, new topics I'm going to cover for you, along with the three keys that we have pending. All of these will take, I think, not more than 1.5 hours. And then remaining 2.5 hours, guys, we are going to do the refresher of all topics that we covered from day 1 to day 3, day 4. Okay, so we'll do a quick revision so that day after tomorrow, when you're giving the test, you know, you're able to, you know, answer everything correctly. So that is what we are going to cover in our next 2 days that we have for MySQL. And from next week, we are going to start Python. So MySQL will get over on Friday, and then next week, Tuesday, we are going to start Python. Guys, are you all there? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Please start preparing, guys, because as you know, this is a placement program. Okay, and your scores will matter a lot. I mean, as you all know, I mean, for placement also there is a eligibility criteria. In all the evaluations, guys, you have to score at least 60%. In all the mock evaluations, mock interviews, in all the subjective tests, all the regular assessments that you have to score 60% or more. The most important evaluation is your final project. Okay, so from mocks, so there is some percentage given to every evaluation. Like mocks have around 10% weightage, then your project has around 30% weightage. So since your entire course is divided into 3 semesters, 10% weightage is given to mocks for the topics that we have in semester 1, 10% semester 2, and 10% semester 3. I think 30% is given to mock, 30% given to final project, 30% is given to, I think, the other assessments that we have, and there is some percentage given to your attendance also. So please ensure that, okay, I mean, you're clearing all those evaluations and you're getting, eligible for the placement. Okay, that's the whole objective of doing this program. So guys, we'll conclude the session here, and I'll see you tomorrow. So please ensure that you all are there. Tomorrow's session is very important because we are going to conclude the topic with an entire overall refresher, and that's all. So guys, please ensure that you're all there tomorrow. Thanks everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Guys, just a moment, do not disconnect. Let me take the attendance. Please wait for a moment. Let me take the screenshot of your participant list. Because your attendance is also important. If I miss marking attendance, then that will be a problem. Bhumika, the exam will be conducted. See, the MCQ test that you have, that you can attempt anytime, maybe during the session or after the session also. But I guess the subjective test has to be given during the session. You'll be completing the test and then you'll be submitting the solution. I mean, you'll be uploading that solution on your learning portal. I will inform Chandan or Sadaf, whoever is governing your batch, okay, to update you how I mean, you are going to upload the solutions on the learning portal. But that has to be given during the session. So 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever you have been allocated, you have to complete that during the session and upload the solution after 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever time is been provided on the learning portal for evaluations. Okay, guys, I have taken your attendance. Just a moment, let me cross check. So Tejas is the last name that I see, and Jayant is the first name. Is this Aditi Balaji? All right, guys, you can disconnect now. I've taken the attendance, taken the screenshot. I'll mark it later. Thanks, everyone, once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.